Good morning, members, and welcome to this meeting of the Nithsdale Area Committee, which is being live streamed and recorded. The recording will be made available on the Council website for public listening. Members may notice that when calling members to speak, I will refer to them formally and using their title, for example, Councillor Smith, so that it is clear who are councillors and who, by the process of elimination, are officers. Remote participants, please follow the good practice guidance, which includes muting microphones and switching off your video when you are not addressing the meeting, writing speak in the Teams chat function when you want to contribute. If you are in the hall, you can do this on your iPhone or iPad. Please don't repeat contributions already made by other members, and no material should be posted in the chat function if it is intended as part of the discussion. The usual standing orders apply, including that any votes will be undertaken by roll call. If any member has to leave the meeting, please either leave the Teams meeting for that period of time or write leave in the Teams chat function, and then join when you rejoin the meeting so we can keep track on whether the meeting is quorate. All members should speak clearly and directly into the microphone when making contributions, and when referring to reports, please provide reference to the relevant page and paragraph to allow everyone to follow. And please focus contributions on areas where clarification is required or to propose an alternative to a recommendation. Tracy, can you provide the sediment indicating who is participating remotely and any apologies, please?
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, members. We've got 16 members present in total, 14 members present in Council HQ, being the Chair, the Vice Chair, Councillor Graham Bell, Councillor Tony Barretti, Councillor John Campbell, Councillor Linda Dorward, Councillor Andy Ferguson, Councillor Ivor Hislop, Councillor Malcolm Johnson, Councillor Tracy Little, Councillor Kim Lowe, Councillor David Slater, Councillor David Stitt, and we also have Youth Council representative for Nith, Ava Dorjatazin. And I've got 2 members present on Microsoft Teams, being Councillor Emma Jordan and Councillor Paula Stevenson. Not present at the start of the meeting is Councillor Blake and Councillor Wood, and I've got one apology from Councillor Walters. Thank you, Chair.
I confirm my agreement to the participation of members named as participating remotely. Yes, Councillor.
Thanks, Chair. Councillor Ian Blake said he's been running late, but will be attending the meeting. Just to note that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, Chair. I see Councillor Wood's now online, so I'll note that.
Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Dorward, did you want to speak?
I did, Chair. Thank you. It's a point of order. I raised with you by email the fact that I asked you via email on Sunday night to consider moving agenda item 16 further up the agenda to one of the first items on the agenda, mainly from the perspective that it's very much in the public interest, more so than the other items on the agenda. I appreciate that the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service are here, so obviously their item on the agenda should be heard first. Totally have an issue with that. Don't have an issue with that at all. But I would suggest it's unfair to ask members of the public and elected members to sit through a further few hours of this, given that it's already been delegated from full council due to a lack of scrutiny on the papers by the convener and vice convener on this item. We had 9 names on the list at that point in time with nothing about them, and we're being asked to look at this again. It's a very important thing, and I know that your party is saying it's a very important thing for Dumfries Town. It's £2 million a year of investment, and I think that to give it proper scrutiny, it should be debated as soon as possible on the agenda. I move that it is, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dorward. I do appreciate that this is a very important issue. Yes, Councillor Little.
If that's a motion by Councillor Dorward, then I second it.
Yes, Councillor Hislop.
Chair, my understanding under 9.1 of the standing orders, it's up to you to determine the running order of this committee.
Thank you, Councillor Hislop. The business of the Council shall proceed in the order specified in the notice calling the meeting, except that any item of business may at the discretion of the convener be taken out of its order. The Council may adjourn a meeting of the Council to any other day, hour or place. The order in the notice shall, unless circumstances otherwise require, be as follows.
Point of order, Chair.
Thank you.
Point of order, Chair.
Sorry?
9.1 actually gives you discretion, and we're asking you to use your discretion and move it up the agenda,
Yes.
right, rather than be bound by what your party is saying.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm staying with the agenda as it is. The agenda came out last week and the item order. And if we changed it now, we are, yes, Councillor Campbell.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I think we've got a procedural vote because the motion has already been moved. So if you wish to put an amendment, that's fine. But if a motion's already been moved and seconded, but I'll go by guidance from governance. Thank you.
I'm going by standing orders.
It's still a procedural vote when motions are moved.
Councillor Hislop.
Chair, in the pre-meeting I asked a question if standing orders could be stood down. They can only be stood down at full council. 9.1 is one of the standing orders of this council, and if we are to ignore that, we would be standing them down. Therefore, we can't do that.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Campbell.
Sorry, yes, thanks, Chair. Yeah, as your governance officer, I would have to advise that advice is correct. 9.1 does state that it's discretion of the convener or the chair, so that standing order should apply here, and the chair has exercised her discretion that the order of the running of the business will be as published.
Can I come back in, Chair?
Yes, Councillor.
So where do we go when a motion's been moved?
A motion at that time wouldn't stand because it's going against standing orders.
No, we've moved that we take the item first, but
Yes, Councillor Dempster.
Provost, are we serious that we're fighting for time when we're wasting time and we should be moving on? Because the sooner we get this agenda item dealt with, the sooner we'll have somebody in post, and the sooner the wider public will get to learn who is going to lead this town forward in the next couple of years. I think it's a shame we've started off this way, but can we just move on to the business, Provost?
Thank you, Councillor Dempster. And we don't consider it to be a competent motion. Thank you. I will now proceed with item 2, declaration of interest. Do members have any statement of connection or declaration of interest to declare based on the definition? Councillor Bell, you wanted to speak.
Yeah, declaration of interest in item 5, page 47. It's the same declaration of interest I gave the last time was College Mains belongs to a family member. If you look on the minutes of this last meeting on agenda item 3, you can probably use the same one, which is 2.1 declaration of interest. You can copy and paste that again.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Dempster.
Thanks, Provost. I have two statements of connection and one of interest. On agenda item 5, the Economy and Development Service Plan, Sanker Enterprise Company is mentioned. I'm chairman of Sanker Enterprise Company. On agenda item 12, it's an application from Sanker Enterprise Company, and I have a declaration of interest, and I will leave the room for that agenda item. And on agenda item 13, I was contacted by a local businessman looking for information on the property with a view to submitting a bid for it. I did not give that individual any undertaking or assurance, so although I've been contacted on the asset, I will remain and determine that agenda item when it comes before you. Thanks, Provost.
Thank you. Item 3, minutes of previous meeting of 8th of November 2023. The minute is for noting. Do we have noting of that minute? Thank you. Item 4 is the Scottish Fire and Rescue Services Nithsdale Area Performance Report, 1st of April 2023 to the 30th of September 2023. Report by Head of Governance and Assurance. Our first report is the Scottish Fire and Rescue Nithsdale report, and I am pleased to note the number of road traffic collisions attended is lower than the pre-COVID figure. Deliberate fire setting is always a concern, and the North West Dumfries ward is still much higher than other areas. How are we working to lower this level? We have Station Commander Chris Ross in the hall to answer any questions or address any member comments. Councillor Bell.
Thanks, Provost. Obviously, you just mentioned deliberate fires there in North West Dumfries. Obviously, we've had imminent problems there for a period of time. I know North West Dumfries is particularly urban area, it's not a particular rural area. For looking at deliberate fires, picking this one out, where are we benchmarking fires in other urban areas of Scotland? I know that's particularly high. Is it just a one-off example in North West Dumfries, from Dumfries and Galloway, or where are deliberate fires fairly high in Strathclyde and some other areas, urban areas? I'm just wondering, is there a pattern there, or is it just because we've got a bit of a hotspot problem in North West Dumfries?
Thank you, Councillor Bell. You're right, there is certainly in Dumfries and Galloway, it is a bit of a hotspot, that area. We do continually work with our community safety department to reduce these figures, and we do a lot of very good work in regards to education. We tie in with the Police Scotland and youth work to deliver the messages around deliberate fire setting to youth. We certainly go out to schools prior to the main holiday periods to deliver those messages as well. With regard to benchmarking against the rest of Scotland, it's really hard because the numbers, as I'm sure you would agree, wouldn't necessarily mean anything without me knowing those individual areas like we do for the North West Dumfries. So it's very difficult to put comparators against the other areas in Scotland without knowing the demographics and the sort of population of those areas, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Thank you, Chris. Do we have any other comments? Councillor Stitt.
Thanks, Chair. It's regarding road traffic casualties, on page 34 of the report. Abbey Ward, I note it covers Nithsdale and Stewart. So I take it that 3.8 is up for the whole figure for the whole Abbey Ward, taking in both areas. Because I think when we go to Stewart area next week, this will probably be the same report with the same figures, I would think. I know it's hard to get a breakdown, but it'd be nice to get them. And I'll just make a comment. I'm glad to see that the retained duty system at Dalbeattie area is picking up, because it's been a bone of contention for ages.
Thank you, Councillor Stitt. For road traffic collisions they've picked up in Abbey that we've probably pulled through into this area as well. As you can imagine, it's kind of challenging sometimes to pinpoint, different RTCs pulling into different areas regarding to mobilisation and incident response. There's certainly been a reduction. It's been very positive and we're pleased to see it. Again, a lot of it is down to a lot of the good work, again, for the community and the operational crews who do deliver road safety partnership work with the Police Scotland and a few other departments. But there has no doubt been a few RTCs in the area of the last in this reporting period. Again, with your comment about Dalbeattie's, unfortunately it's not my area at the moment, but all areas in Dumfries and Galloway are usually actively recruiting. We're working really hard to recruit people into the on-call system, and we really appreciate their time and dedication for doing so.
Thank you. Does that help, Councillor?
That's fine. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Ferguson.
Thanks, Convener, Chair. Sorry. back to kind of old hobby horse of mine. If you look at page 8 of your report about the RTC casualties per 10,000 population, D&G, I think it's fair to say you guys are probably first in the scene to major collisions and major incidents like this. There was talk and there was a fair bit of work done to introduce like an advanced practitioner first aid. Some of the firefighters would be trained to that standard so that they could actually deal with things, keep people alive until the ambulance got there, for example. And I know that there was a wee hitch and there were discussions going on with the Fire Brigade Union. Are we any further forward to actually getting that in place? Because many places in Europe and North America in particular, that's exactly what they've got. In fact, some even have doctors online, but I appreciate we're not quite at that stage. So where are we with that just now?
Okay, thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Okay, so there is, you're absolutely right with regard to what we were calling the broadening of the role. This included increasing the responsibilities of a firefighter to do more of a medical-based approach. There was elements around what we call marauding terrorism and a few other increasing responsibilities. You're right, it did meet issues with the union and a few others regarding the terminology, and essentially the funding was pulled at that point. So, but I'm led to believe it's still ongoing, very much so. There is a desire amongst a lot of people to do a lot of this work. It's not that the employees they're looking to, because obviously we're still mobilised to these incidents, so we want to be as best skilled as we possibly can. But what I can tell you to give you a level of comfort is every firefighter is trained to a good level of trauma care, and that trauma care gives us ability to do our very best to stabilise a condition until what I class as the professionals, the Scottish Ambulance Service, to arrive. So things like catastrophic bleeding, cardiac arrest, the basic, the first few moments that we can arrive, if we're there before our partners, then we have the equipment, we have the skills to put those in place immediately. So whilst we are indeed waiting for further discussions around broadening the role, in the meantime we do have reasonable level of skill level and equipment to carry out those things should we arrive before any of our partners.
Thank you. Councillor Dempster.
Thanks, Provost. I'm interested in the picture on page 24 of your document, which is the new appliance delivered to Thornhill. I remember in the heady days of the 1980s when I was driving fire appliances in Sanker, we got a compact, which was a thing produced in Ireland. Terrible thing, terrible to drive. But the problem was, though, that in order to have it roadworthy, we reduced the carrying capacity of water from 500 litres to 200 litres. So what's missing from this appliance that was in the old one? And the reason I ask is, these firefighters serve a rural area, and it's difficult sometimes to find a fire hydrant when you need one. And that's just one example of what we need in the rural area, because the backup, which is Dumfries or Newcomnock or Cumnock, is usually some distance away.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Dempster. I'm pleased to say there's nothing missing. These new appliances, whilst they're called medium weight, they're just they've taken on a little bit of feedback from the crews. So things that are missing from your day, or for certainly my day from when I was in the back of a fire engine, we no longer carry our BA sets behind us. That's basically due to road laws that require a firefighter to put a seatbelt on the back now. So we can't put a BA set on on our way to a job anymore. So things like those breathing apparatus sets have now been moved into the rear of the appliance to make the crew cab a bit safer. So that gives us a little bit more scope to change the size of these things. They're certainly, having been up there and sat in these things, they're better suited for our sort of rural roads, getting up farm tracks and things. So what I can say is they've manipulated how they store things instead of having them on a big, larger fire engine. They've manipulated how they store them and how they access them. And what it's just created you probably, to look at it, probably wouldn't realise, but it's just made a slightly smaller footprint, and it's what they're classing as a medium weight. But I personally, having seen them and driven stuff of this size when I was a driver, they're more manageable in those sort of rural areas.
I remember well wrestling in the back trying to get a BS out when we were running around the road. Is there a smaller water carrying capacity now, though, or is that just the same? It used to be 500 litres on the big appliances that we had.
So it's still 1,800 litres, the same as one of the large scannies that we have at Dumfries. Yeah, it's the same.
Thanks very much for that, chap.
Thank you. Councillor Dorward.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the report. Just like to commend the fact on page 22 in terms of operational preparedness and resilience, the amount of work that's being done to keep people trained to the highest standards possible, which is including whole-time and part-time staff. I think that's been fantastic, and it's great to see multi-agency exercises going on as well, so thank you for that. I do have a specific question as well, but it's always good to compliment what our fire and rescue services are doing as well as constructively criticise, so thanks for that. My question's in terms of, it's maybe not for yourself, but maybe to take it back to AC Kenna, at the Scottish Fire, the Police Fire and Rescue Subcommittee on the 7th of December, I raised a question about BESS, which is Battery Energy Storage Systems. And there is one potentially coming to Loch Moss, as I understand it. And this has been discussed frequently with constituents at community councils that I attend in the Locher area. And what the question is the status of the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service in terms of statutory consultee for this issue. What is the legal status of, in terms of the statutory consultee status for the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service in this process? Because constituents are raising concerns about the storage and the fire hazards that could result from these battery storage systems, if that makes sense. So it's not for answers right now, it's just maybe to have an answer back at some point in time. That would be really useful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Dorward. Councillor Hislop.
Back to RTCs. I note in your paper on page 34 that Locher Ward has 5 RTCs by ward area. Now, I take it that's within Locher Ward there are 5 accidents or crashes. You then look at the next one where it says casualties per 10,000. Now, is that, and it's quite high, I would say, for Locher Ward in there, is that actually people who have been in the accidents within the ward, or is that residents of Locher Ward who might be driving badly elsewhere? Because if it's a case of with 5 accidents we're getting a higher rate of casualty, is there an issue in Locher Ward that we need to know about the roads and policing of the roads in this area to address issues?
Okay, thank you, Councillor Hislop. The casualties will be basically anyone travelling through Locher, and that'll be how it's recorded. I'm pretty 95% sure of that. And your numbers there will just be from the top graph down to the bottom one, if that makes sense, just for basically on numbers.
Well, it's just that all wards are the same, roughly same number of people for Upper Andale, and if you look at the Andale North, their injuries or casualties are 2.6 for 10, whereas the Locher one, it's 5 accidents, 5 per 10,000. And is it saying that maybe people are having more or larger crashes in Locher Ward, and is it something we need to get to our road service and the police to say, look, there's an issue in Locher Ward whereby if you're in an accident you're going to have a casualty?
Of course, it could be the number of casualties in the car. You might have more people in the car, which might result. So it might have. It's just dependent on what happens on any given day. I guess. I mean, I can. If you wish, I could dig a little deeper on those individual numbers for you and provide you a response on this particular.
It's maybe something that's just, as ward members, we might take back to the likes of the roads. If there's a certain hotspot, you know, there's a couple of accidents on the A75. I think one was Anne and one was just outside Dumfries in our ward. And it's just things like that. You know, is there something that we need to be aware of that we can maybe help you by lobbying police or getting better roads markings or something?
I would, sorry, Councillor. I'd really need to look in a bit detail. But I'm happy to do so if you'd like that. I can. Yep.
If you could, thanks.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Hislop. Do we have any further? Oh, Councillor Slater. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and thank you for the Fire Brigade for the report. This is something I've raised at previous meetings as the state of the fire hydrants. They appear to, I realise that the Fire Brigade will know where they are on computer, but where they are in the streets and that, some are pretty worn out, I must admit. I need a painting, some of the ditch signs are missing, and some are actually broken and grown over. So I just wonder if there's any way of maybe highlighting them, because if the public know where they are, that's good. The fact is that in vehicles, if they don't know where they are, sometimes vehicles can actually park in them as well. So it's just something that it also makes the area look better, and it looks better for the fire brigade if they see all the hydrants are in better condition. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Yes, Chris.
Thank you, Councillor. With regard to hydrants, we have a hydrant operative who works within Dumfries and Galloway, whose sole role is to maintain and report on anything to do with hydrants, whether not operating or in effect a repair as quickly as possible. Our operational crews, certainly Dumfries, will go out and maintain hydrants who are a little bit more sort of urban areas. As you alluded to there, every hydrant is plotted in our vehicle computer systems, and in that they'll record everything regarding the dimension of the hydrant flow, its location, how many hydrant lengths we'd possibly need if we had an incident. So all that information is gathered. We do no longer paint hydrants after complaints from the public, which is no longer done. But rest assured, every hydrant is accounted for. It's located. We know exactly where it is, and it is maintained on a maintenance schedule to ensure it's operational when required.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What I'm really saying here is the fact that they should be made more visible to the general public as well, where they are, and that's not happening, I must admit. You can see over several years they've just been left to deteriorate and end up covered in brown rust, whereas there's some in some of the supermarket car parks, they're actually painted and they look a lot better, I have to say. People know where they are and what it actually is, and that's what I'm really saying. I'm not saying you're not maintaining them as such, but I think a little bit more care as to some maintenance to make them more visible. That would be good. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Slater, for bringing that to the attention of Chris. Thank you. Councillor Beretti.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Page 31, I noticed that domestic fire accidental dwelling fires in Mid and Upper Nithsdale 0. This is the first question. Is there something that's going on up in Mid and Upper Nithsdale that's different to the other regions, or is it down to just pure luck? And the second question is on page 38, the on-call retained duty system. Now, I know this doesn't mention the makeup of the teams, but how many female firefighters do you have within the team, and is there something that can be reflected in this in the next time? Because I know that you are trying to encourage females to join the service.
Yes, thank you, Councillor. So in terms of I'll just answer your last question first. We do actively try and encourage basically everybody to. It's really, really challenging to recruit the on-call at the moment, and we're doing absolutely everything we can. We do our our last what we call pre-selection test, which is where suitable members of the public who choose to become on-call firefighters, that's where they go along and they do a test on their ability to perform the basic tasks. So for the female population who had applied at that, we basically put on I'm not saying a special event, but we had female firefighters attend to try and encourage them and trying to make it more of a positive experience for them, because we were noticing a lot of them, those who applied, were maybe perhaps failing different areas and then not reapplying, whereas some of the male population were reapplying. So we were just trying to tweak things a little bit to make it more of an inclusive event for them. But everybody who applies to the on-call service is so precious to us at the moment. We really, really are constantly recruiting. So it's really difficult to fit the on-call into people's lives at the moment, and it's and depending on your job and your primary employment, if you have one, how that's managed, it doesn't fit everybody, regardless of your sort of gender, I guess. But we're certainly very, very encouraging. But in terms of our numbers, if you asked me a station, I could probably pull it out of my head, if any in particular. But for Thornhill, for example, we have 2 and 1 on the waiting list to join. So out of a crew of 12, it's quite positive, quite good. Sanker, I think, is 1 on the current list to join, and Dumfries on call is 1. It's working, but it's so precious to get anybody. Everybody's application is deemed with that sort of level of. We're pleased that they've applied.
My first point, the zero incidents.
Right. So it's probably just really fortunate in that area this time. So everybody gets the same level of community safety engagement. So where our crews go out and deliver home fire safety visits to discuss any sort of fire safety issues that they might have. In Dumfries, our crews at the moment are certainly increased their community safety engagement. They are now actively going out to clubs and areas, different groups, to try and create opportunities for more what we call home fire safety visits. So to try and get us out there into people's homes to offer them that advice. So hopefully we have more zeros, really. That's what we're looking for. As one of our methods that we use to engage with people is called a post-domestic incident response. So if someone was to have a domestic fire, we would then target the areas immediately around that property and offer them visits, because while it's still fresh in their minds. But one of the successes of having reduced numbers of operational activity is we have less options to engage with our community. So that's why our crews all across the area are now doing more to engage out there and to create these connections with our community to try and deliver that message on fire safety. It's an unfortunate side of reduced operational activity is that it's harder for us to engage, if that makes sense.
Okay, that sounds on both points. It's encouraging. I'm quite happy to, and I know that I was approached by some females to see whether or not they would join the fire service. And I think it is encouraging that we do, in fact, encourage them and give them every opportunity. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Beretti. Thank you, Chris. Councillor Slater, did you want to come back in again?
No, it's a legacy hand,
okay,
so I
thank you.
apologise.
Any further comments? Yes, Councillor Ferguson.
Yeah, just to pick up on that last answer there, and thanks very much for that, because I appreciate how difficult it is. But the kind of alternate question is, how many women are in senior officer positions in fire and rescue in Dumfries and Galloway?
So, Councillor, currently in Dumfries and Galloway we have the structure, if it helps you to get an idea of where we are, the structure is we've got an area commander. Below him we have 2 group commanders, both are male, and then below that sits 6 station commanders, and within that 6, 2 of those are female.
So 2 out of 9. I think that's what you're saying, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Maybe that's why you're having difficulty.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Thank you, Chris. If there are no further comments, we'll move to recommendations. And members that are being asked to scrutinise the performance report for the Nithsdale from the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service for the period April 2023 to 30 September 2023, as detailed in the appendices. Thank you, and thank you, Chris, for your attendance this morning. Thank you. We now turn to item 5, the Economy and Development Service Plan performance. This is the half-year report, and this report covers performance from the 1st of April 23 to the 30th of September 23. A great deal of detail here that members will be very interested in, and it's good to see a great deal of interest in local place plans across the Nithsdale area. And it's also encouraging to see the numbers of units that may be developed through the local housing strategy. Stuart McMillan, Simon Fieldhouse, Jamie Little and Shona McCoy are on teams to answer any member questions or address any member comments. Do we have any comments, members? Councillor Ferguson.
Thanks very much. I think I'll start off by maybe suggesting there's quite a number of forms in here giving us names of community bodies' progress to date. I think we could probably benefit from some sort of red, amber, green, a bit nearing completion. That's just kind of a statement. But if you go to 4.6.3.1, the Conservation Area Regeneration Scheme, or DCARS, I think it's called, that's due to stop in 2026. So if you then look at page 44, there's a number of issues in there where there's little progress at 80 English Street, 11 to 17 English Street, made in the new year. I'm assuming that's this year rather than next year. It looks like a copy over. And then 130, 132 High Street, where they've withdrawn, they've come back in. So the question really here is, that's why I'm suggesting we should have, far down the process are we towards completion, so that we can actually monitor it even better. Now I appreciate the officers will give us a very detailed, are able to give us a very detailed breakdown of where all these schemes are, right? But if I'm a member of the public and I'm not listening to this online, I don't know where on earth we are in terms of completion. And for me, it would really helpful, I would suggest. And then the last question is about 4.6.6, the South West Coastal Trail. The budget that was passed in just last month actually set aside money for to be taken and put into that. And just what reassurance that officers are now working, knowing that that percentage of the money that comes from Scottish Government for coastal benefit is actually being used for that purpose, or they're aware of it, and they're actively working with communities to make sure that they maximise the potential of that. That's quite a lot in one question.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Jamie, would you like to take that one?
Yeah, thanks. Just to say, unfortunately, Simon hasn't been able to join us today, but we can certainly take away the query regarding the South West Scotland Trail. And in terms of completion dates, we'll take that on board, and we can look to see how we adapt those into future reports back to committee.
Thank you. Councillor Wood?
Excuse me, that's only one answer.
Sorry, Councillor Ferguson, go ahead.
That was only one answer.
Right.
I'm on about the
coast, yeah.
Yeah, no, the coastal, but we've got
Coastal
the answer
benefit.
for that. I'll come back. But I'm talking about the three projects in English Street and the High Street in Dumfries. And yeah, I'd expected somebody to actually tell us where they were, and then the next reports actually have the RAG in.
Thank you, Councillor. Who would like to take that and answer Councillor Ferguson's?
I can maybe just talk on 130 to 132 High Street. The update is fairly fresh in terms of that now being included in the Strategic Housing Investment Plan. There's two references in the report to it, so I'll bring Shona and Ross in to speak to that. But the project has just been included in the Strategic Housing Investment Plan, and there was an allocation of Town Centre Living Fund that went towards that as well. One of the things that was referred to in the Economy and Resources Committee paper back in January was the need to identify additional resources to make this project work. So we are actively doing that at the moment with engagement with Wheatley Homes South. But I'll bring Shona and Ross in to talk to the conservation area part of that project, and then the other two projects as well.
Thank you. Stuart, would you like to answer any of that question?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, my colleagues probably don't know that I'm in the room. So it would be useful, I think, for Ross to comment on the Conservation Area Regeneration Scheme for Dumfries. He's the project officer for that, and he's on Teams. So I was just going to try and direct the responses from officers. Chair, thanks.
Thank you. Are you happy with that, Councillor Ferguson? Did you get your answers? Thank you. Councillor Wood?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you very much for the report. It's on page 43, 4.6.22, and it's looking at the community body, the third one down, KPT Development Trust. It's just to get clarification on this, because my understanding is that Tinrin is withdrawing from KPT. I certainly don't want to see Pen Punt or Keir missing out on such a plan. Where are we, and are you aware of this, the action that's taking place at present?
Thank you, Councillor Wood. Shona, would you like to take that, please? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, we have been engaging with the community councils up in that area on their local place plans, and we're in dialogue with Pen Punt Community Council, and we've also had a very recent meeting with Glencairn Community Council. We understand Tinrin's current position, but we're also aware that that may change as the local place plan is developed, so the door is open to them should they wish to engage as the process goes forward. But as I say, there is ongoing dialogue with all the communities in that Nithsdale area.
Thank you. Does that help, Councillor Wood?
Yes, it helps, but I certainly would like clarification on that before it progresses too far, where there might be the opportunity to miss out on funding.
Thank you. Shona, do you have any help there?
Probably not much more I can add. As I say, we're keeping the dialogue open with them. They're very aware of the seed grant that they can apply for from the council to help them prepare their plan. And as part of the initial meeting we have with them, we make them aware of the desire potentially from some funders that they might wish to see a community to have a local place plan in place. So to say that the door is open for them to participate in that process, but it's very much up to the local community how they want to take that forward.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Wood. Councillor Dempster.
Thanks, Provost. On page 42, 4.6.1, I'm delighted to see that Kirkconnell and Killahome are leading the way in developing a place plan, and they're very much progressing a number of schemes within that plan. I'm delighted to see them doing that, and good luck to them that they're doing particularly well. On page 46.4.6.5.4, the Core Pass project, it was completed last week. There's a grand opening on Monday, and I would like to extend my gratitude to the Council for their investment in that project with the enterprise company, and indeed for the support of our ward officer. Without her help, we wouldn't be where we are today. And the last thing, just an observation at this stage, and it's on page 47, and Jamie will know I'm referring to one particular a development scheme on the page, but if there's any of these schemes that are not going to be taken forward, we need to be conscious of the fact that the Scottish Government funding involved here, and there's a new local development plan number 3 being brought forward. I think there'll be a call for sites in summer. So if there are any that's going to stutter, I think we'd want to learn about them and understand this is reporting a 6-month report, so Jamie can respond on that. It's just an observation, and Jamie and I have dialogue regularly anyway. So I just want to put a marker down, Provost, and nothing more than that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dempster. Councillor Campbell.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it's just touching again on the core pass on page 46. I welcome it being a 6-monthly assessment up until September. However, we have not got an outdoor access officer. My understanding is there is going to be one appointed. Don't know when, but it's a shame that Simon Fieldhouse isn't here to respond. And my other concern was that the Outdoor Access Forum have not met for over a year. So that's quite concerning, because we've been getting quite a lot of emails about certain core paths not being up to standard. So perhaps we could maybe get a report sent to all members and where we are with the appointment and when the Outdoor Access Forum can reconvene. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Campbell. Could we have a report sent to members for the Outdoor Access Forum before our next? Thank you.
I'm happy to note that as an action, Chair.
Councillor Slater.
Thank you, Chair. It's on page 46, 4.66, I think. It's about the trail that goes round the Rins of Galway. I believe there's a possible hold-up with that because of land ownership. Maybe Jamie could come back on that one, maybe give us some advice on it, if that's the reason it's being held up. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Slater. James, would you like to take that?
Yeah, again, that's one really for Simon to comment on. So I'll take away that action and ask Simon to come back with a response.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Dorward.
Thank you, Chair. Just to expand on what my colleagues, Councillor Ferguson and Councillor Dempster, have said, But in terms of 4.6.7.3, page 46, page 47 is the table. Again, it's about housing projects. There needs to be a RAG status on this because some of them have been on this table since I joined the council, which is now nearly 2 years, without progression, which is concerning. And whilst I appreciate that officers will be working really hard to get things done, a specific concern is Dumfries Art College building craftsmen at the top. Nothing has changed there, nothing has moved there. And that might be interesting given the fact that it's next door to Lorburn Primary School. We can talk about that tomorrow. My second question is local housing strategy 4.6.7.1. Massive issues in the media, in the news yesterday about issues of mould with some of our RSLs. Are there any issues specific to Dumfries and Galloway that we need to know about in the Nithsdale area? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dorward. James, would you like to take that?
Yes, of course. No, so just I'll come to the issue regarding mould in the first instance. Obviously, that's something that has highlighted a particular concern, and I know that there's been quite a bit of press coverage regarding that. As far as I'm aware, this relates to properties in Outwith, Dumfries and Galloway. The reporting that I've seen has referred to properties in Glasgow, Fife, and in the borders. And that none have yet been cited in Dumfries and Galloway. I do regularly engage with the registered social landlord chief executives, and this is one of the matters we obviously discuss is around property conditions, and I know that is obviously very important to members. If any do arise, then I will obviously advise as required. But at this time, I've not been made aware of any particular issues in terms of this case that's been raised that relate to Dumfries and Galloway. On Dumfries Art College, I appreciate that this has been taking some time to move forward. We do try and work very proactively with the developers and also with colleagues within the council to move this forward. As a recent update, there has been some additional requirements placed through the planning process on the applicant around the conservation of the building, which is something they're seeking to resolve. And further drawings were submitted to the planning department at the end of February. So it is moving forward. And we met with the building craftsmen just last month to discuss all the projects that they have in the strategic housing investment plan. I would hope to have a more detailed update at the next opportunity.
Yes, Councillor Dorward, did you want to come back in?
Jamie, many thanks for that. I appreciate you've got a wide and varied remit. The concerns about the art colleges, it looks like from a layman's or lay person's perspective, it's a massive health and safety risk at the moment. When we did the visit to Lorburn Primary School, we walked about that area and saw things like dead birds between the windows and the bars on the windows. There are loose slates. The fences surrounding the building are a great climbing frame for primary age children. So massive concerns there. So it's about progress, but also about health and safety. Thank you. So maybe that could be included in the report when you bring it back. Cheers.
Thank you, Councillor Dorward. Councillor Little?
I withdraw my question. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. We'll return to Councillor Ferguson's question. Ross would like to respond to part of that. Thank you. Thank you, Ross.
Hi. You were asking about progress at a number of the projects at the Dumfries Cars, is that correct?
It's that long ago, yes, but that's right.
Some, because we're dealing with private ownership and stuff, some of the projects that we have aren't really, I can't really discuss them in the public realm. I do take on board that maybe a better idea to try and give more of an idea of how far through the process these projects are. So I can certainly take that on board for the next committee or the next time we're reporting.
Thanks for letting me back in, Chair. So, Ross, if I'm picking you up right, they want the public money, but they don't want to tell the public what the reason is for the delay. Is that what you're saying?
Not so much. I mean, it's until we've made an actual grant award, some of the stuff that we deal with private owners isn't suitable for the public realm until that grant award's made. When the grant award is made, then yes, all the information is available.
I can just come back in. So just to follow that through then, so that would mean if we've got money committed there and there's a blockage for whatever reason for the progress, should we not be looking at stalling that process, and if anyone else is waiting in the wings to come in and get access to that money? Because that would, to me, would be the sensible, decent thing to do, rather than just keep on. We could be sitting here in 2, 3, 4 years' time when they've still got these controversial issues that need to complete in private. So I think the question really is are these projects actually ready to move on to the funding stage? And given what you're saying, it doesn't look like it.
No, everything we're currently working on is progressing, yes. That how we work is we generally get to around the halfway stage of the scheme, which is coming up. And if we feel that the progress hasn't been made, then we would move to one of the reserve projects. But everything I'm working on at the moment is progressing in some way or another.
Just quickly, actually, thanks very much, Chair, because that actually, I think, backs up the need for the red, amber, green, where we are in the process, because we could be stuck here in amber for X number of years. We just don't know. I think that's the problem. And I'm quite happy to leave it to the team to actually bring something back next time.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Ross. Councillor Slater.
Yes, thank you, Chair. This is a question for Jamie. I too visited Lordburn Primary School the other day there, and also the academy, which I've taken. Maybe Jamie would like to see them. I've taken a lot of photographs of the school itself. I was allowed to do that, by the way, because I asked permission. And the state, the school is very run down. You can actually smell damp as you come into the entrance. In fact, the office is not where you go at the entrance. You've got to go in there and basically register, and I think you've got to go back outside and walk around the corner. And there are so many rat runs in it. I fear, I must admit, looking around, that if there was a fire there, I fear for people's lives trying to get out of that building. And it's quite important that something's done about it. But reconfiguring it, I don't know if that's possible to reconfigure it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Slater. I think this will be discussed at E&L Committee. Thank you. Are there any further comments or anyone wishing to speak? We will now move to recommendations. Members are asked to review the 6-month summary of performance for the Nithsdale area for the 1st of April 2023 to the 30th of September 2023, as set out in paragraphs 4.3 and 4.4 of the appendix. 2. Consider the area-based achievements and developments as detailed in the key achievements section of this report, paragraphs 4.61 to 4.610, and consider any aspects of performance to be referred to the relevant service committees. Councillor Ferguson, would you like to come back in?
Just can we get it down there at 2.3 that we've asked them to introduce a red, amber, green warning system and where we are with different projects. I think the team have actually said they would do that, but I think we need to minute it to make sure. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. The next report is the 6-month assessment of Community Services Service Plan covering the period from the 1st of April to the 30th of September 2023. As always, this report covers a range of services and projects that are vital to helping our communities prosper and thrive. I'd like to highlight that the survey regarding lifelong learning and youth work, 96% to 91% of young people and adults reported an improvement in their confidence, skills, individuals, family, community or working life. It is important that people are supported beyond school to build their interpersonal and work skills. Liz Manson is in the hall to answer any member questions or address any member comments. I will open up for debate. Do any members have any comments? Thank you. Councillor Ferguson.
Yeah, I'm referring to 4.5.4.2. That's a mouthful, isn't it? And I think we should recognise as an area committee the work that was done and congratulate the young people involved and the staff involved in winning that prestigious award.
Thank you. Councillor Hislop.
Chair, I don't know if it's an acronym or a spelling mistake. In 4.5.6.2, PEEP Learning Together programme. Should that be peer learning, or is PEEP an acronym for something?
It is PEEP, and it is a colloquialism perhaps just to try and encourage people. So yeah, PEEP.
Thank you, Liz. Do we have any further comments or questions? Councillor Slater.
Thank you, Chair. It's page 59. It's 4.5.2. It's support town centre regeneration Dumfries, working with the Dumfries Partner Action Group. Now, as we're getting a town board, hopefully, will this group still be there, or will it all go to the town board? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Slater. Liz, are you able to answer that one? Thank you.
Yes, and as we've reflected here, these very discussions are ongoing just about how groups fit together and what is the particular purpose of each group. So the DPAG group are obviously well aware of the development of the Dumfries Town Board and are considering how they fit in and what their role will be. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments, questions? Councillor Ferguson again. Thank you.
Thanks very much. I'm on form today. Local place plans here, they seem to be most productive, let's put it that way, when there's a community council. I'm in a ward without any community councils, so what are we putting in place for those areas that don't have public-facing groups who would be willing to take on place planning as a project or as an action? That'd be interesting what Liz has got to say on that, if we can, please.
Yes, that is an interesting point. Liz, thank you.
Yes, thank you. And that is indeed the skill that the ward officers and the community engagement team bring to that group of officers that are supporting communities. Because yes, where there's a community council, there's a very clear group representing the area, but for other parts of our communities there isn't a community council, and so it is about perhaps identifying other groups that are in place, or indeed creating a new group of interests to take forward a local place plan, if indeed that's what that community wants to do. So I think that is indeed where the skill of the ward officers and indeed ward members in knowing how to bring people together lies. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. As there don't seem to be any further comments or questions, we'll move to recommendations. Thank you. Members are asked to review the 2023-2024 six-month summary performance for the Nithsdale area for the 1st of April 23 to the 30th of September 23, as set out in paragraphs 4.3 and 4.4 and appendix. Consider the area-based achievements and developments as detailed in the Key Achievements section of this report, paragraph 4.5.1 to 4.5.8, and consider any aspects of performance to be referred to the relevant service committee. And we have reviewed and consider 2 and 3. Thank you. We will now move to item 7 on our agenda, and this is the half-year report from April to September 2023 assessment of the governance and assurance plan. There are no performance measures specific to the Nithsdale area in this report. Jackie Holland is available on Teams to answer any questions, and I will now open for member discussion. Do we have any comments? Councillor Hislop.
Possibly a daft laddie question. Why is it here if there's nothing specific to Nithsdale in it?
Good question, Councillor Hislop. Jackie, do we have any answers as to why this has been brought to this committee when we have nothing specific to measure? Thank you.
Thank you. And I can see Vlad's joined the call. Vlad, do you want to answer that?
Yes, thank you, and appreciate Jackie's there representing governance and assurance. In terms of our performance reporting, there is a route for us taking any performances within our overall plan, as well as those kind of KPIs that are relevant to this particular area committee. However, in terms of the relevance at this point in time, we don't have any that relate, and therefore we have that kind of more generic reporting for you. However, I think moving forward, some of those specific areas that sit at the kind of operational end of governance and assurance, the kind of training, standard, environmental health, will obviously be moving forward to a different directorate in due course, but there might be some scope for those more ground level reporting for the area committee in due course once we have the right systems in place.
Thank you, Vlad. Does that help, Councillor Hislop?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. As there don't seem to be any further questions or comments, I will now move to the recommendations. Thank you. Members are asked to review the 23-24 6-month summary performance for the Nithsdale area for April 23 to September 23, as set out in paragraphs 4.3 and 4.4 and appendix. Consider the area-based achievements and developments as detailed in the key achievements section of this report, paragraphs 4.5.1 to 4.5.3, and consider any aspects of performance to be referred to the relevant service committees. Thank you. The next report is the 6-month assessment of Neighbourhood Services Service Plan. Again, covering the period from the 1st of April to the 30th of September 23. It is useful to see the numbers against targets for the wide range of services provided. It's also encouraging that numbers are up across all sites. Alice Freeman will answer any member questions or address any member comments. I will open it up now to comments or questions. Thank you. Councillor Ferguson.
It's actually association. My apologies, I should have done this at the start, but my daughter is the manager in the Ice Bowl, and that's actively mentioned here, so it's just association. And I'll not ask any questions in the Ice Bowl. Honestly.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Do we have any further? Councillor Campbell.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I'm pleased to see that the attendances across the swimming pools are up quite substantial. But I still get people coming to me, trying to get booked into the system, and it's a bit of a struggle. I know this is a historic report, but I'm just wondering if we can maybe get some information at a later date, how we're progressing, try to deal with that issue. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. Elsa, do you have anything to add?
I don't have anything to add at the moment, but I'm quite happy to take that back to the service manager's pleasure and support, and we can get an update to members after offline.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Dorward.
Thank you, Chair. It's just to follow on from Councillor John Campbell's question. it's great to see attendance up across Nithsdale in terms of our community activities, and it's really important for our community to ensure that people participate in physical activities. And it's just to remind everybody how important these are when we're looking at, maybe a bit early in the day, next year's budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dorward. Elsa, do you have any comment on that?
No further comment.
Thank you. Do we have any further questions or comments? Councillor Johnston.
It's easy to get confused, Maureen. It's 4.5.1 and it's quite interesting in the fact that we've had an increased number of people visiting customer service centres, and I think this highlights the importance of having an access point for people before we career down a path of being online for everything. So I think in-person meetings are quite important, and it is good to see that the numbers are increasing. So I hope we keep that as an important part of our service.
Thank you. That's nice to see a positive. Ailsa, do you have anything you'd like to add to that?
We're delighted as well to see that our customers are coming back, and it is very important. They do prefer to see us face to face. So yeah, we work very hard to work with our communities and bring additional customers and to help in our communities wherever we can.
Thank you. Any further questions, comments? In that case, we'll move to recommendations. Members are asked to review the 2023-24 6-month summary performance for the Nithsdale area for the 1st of April 23 to the 30th September 23, as set out in paragraphs 4.3 and 4.4 and appendix. Consider the key-based achievements and developments as detailed in the key achievements section of this report, paragraphs 4.5.1 to 4.5.7, and consider any aspects of performance to be referred to the relevant service committee. Do we have review and consider? Thank you. Thank you, Ailsa, for your input. Thank you. We will now move to the next report, item 9, and the next report is the 6-month assessment of roads and infrastructure service plan against covering the period from the 1st of April to the 30th of September 2023. The next report is the 6-month assessment of roads and infrastructure service plan, again covering the period from the 1st of April to the 30th of September 2023. There are no performance measures specific to the Nithsdale area in this report. Any comments from members will be reported to the relevant committee. Stephen Hall will answer any member questions or address any member comments. Members, I'm open now for questions and comments. Councillor Bell.
Thanks, Provost. Obviously, we're looking at this agenda item 9 here. Just mentioned here there's no performance measures for the Nithsdale Area Committee. What's it coming to Nithsdale Area Committee? Is this an infill paper? It's proving nothing.
Thank you, Councillor Bell. Stephen, do you have any answer to that? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. We have got 2 specific projects where an update is relevant to this committee as contained within the paper. Thank you.
Meant the roads.
Was that Councillor Bell?
More the roads, eventually, not so much the white sands, but obviously specific measures and whatnot coming to Nithsdale Committee. You've answered the question anyway, it's pointless.
Thank you, thank you. Councillor Hislop?
Chair, I must admit, when I attend community council, I take it when everybody else attends community councils, the one thing that comes back time and time again is potholes in the road. And there's no measure, whether we're actually addressing this or not, that's specific to Nithsdale. I find that difficult to believe.
Thank you, Councillor Hislop. Stephen, do you have anything you'd like to answer there?
Thank you. I'd like to go away and just check exactly how our performance indicators are constructed. I suspect the answer to that is that our performance indicators in relation to potholes are region-wide rather than area-specific. But if I could go away and check that and come back with a specific answer for you on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen, for doing that. We'll wait to hear back from that report. Councillor Slater.
Yes, thank you, Chair. In reference to potholes, yes, I have to be honest, that's the biggest complaint I get is potholes, people's cars being damaged. I know one person who did 16,000 miles that needed 2 rear shock absorbers and an anti-roll bar in a car that did that few miles. So cars are being damaged every day on the roads. It's high priority. We want to bring in a national park here possibly, and the roads have to be up to reasonable standard, and they're not. One other point is regarding White Sands. I see that, maybe this is not relevant here, but I see the council have appointed Turner and Townsend to support the flood risk management team. Now, I must admit, I thought most of that work had been done. But so why do they need another management team to come in? And one other point about it, that partly some of this funding is to be used to buy land, and is it possible they can tell councillors where this land is that they intend to buy? And one last point, it says there's several hundred floods. In actual fact, when the water comes out of the sands at all, as soon as it touches the car park, that's classed as a flood. So there's very, very few. At this moment in time, the cost of it as well, it's estimated to be 50 million. So if it was affecting, say, 35 properties, that's £1 million of property. So a tremendous amount of money here, and the fact that health and social services and that are crying out, the health board are crying out for more money, and this is where money should be being spent, but especially in potholes in the roads, they need to be repaired forthwith. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Slater. Stephen, can you answer any of those comments or questions?
Yes, thank you. Completely understand the concerns and priority attached to potholes. I absolutely share that. That's what we live and breathe within roads and infrastructure. In relation to that, members will be aware that circa 12 months ago, full council agreed a significant budget uplift for the road service, both capital and revenue, which kicks in the new financial year. As a consequence of that, we will be in a position to undertake significantly greater maintenance works on the road network. Coming to the questions around the White Sands. So first question I think there was, why have we had the need to appoint an external consultancy, Turner and Townsend in this case, to support the scheme? So as the project now moves into the next phase of delivery, there's a huge amount of technical project management work to be undertaken. Things like development of a procurement strategy, procurement of designers, management of technical designers, management of contractors, development of strategies to undertake utility diversions, the requirement to undertake structural assessments of the land itself, so ground investigations, technical ground investigations that involve, opening physically up the ground to assess that. And in simple terms, our own capacity internally isn't sufficient to do that at the moment, so we have gone out and we've procured competitively through Scotland Excel framework Turner and Townsend to do this work. They won that competitively and have a very strong track record in delivery of flood schemes nationally within Scotland and more broadly across the UK. The second question in relation to land purchase, if possible, I would prefer to come back to members. I just want to be cautious around the commercial element of that and take advice on whether or not that would need to be done in private with members in order to not fetter the council's commercial position in those negotiations. But I will come back to members on that after taking advice. In relation to the White Sands itself, as members are hopefully aware, it absolutely does sit within the SEPA definition of a flood zone and at high risk of flood, hence the business case having been approved many years ago by Scottish Government. And perhaps the last point in terms of cost of the scheme, just to reassure members that as part of the original proposals for the project being approved many years ago by Scottish Government, part of that was assessment of what's called the benefits cost ratio for the project, and that went through and met the necessary national criteria and was approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Councillor Slater.
Yes, there was another question there, but it might be for another day. What I don't understand really, there's a word being used quite a lot, it's called artificial intelligence. What I'm really saying here is technology's moved on in leaps and bounds, but you're still trying to build something that's 14 years old, possibly. I can't understand, get my head around that. You know, to me, I'm grateful.
Councillor Slater, that's not really relevant at
fair
this
enough.
meeting.
I
Thank
just
you
thought
so
I'd
much.
say it anyway. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Chair. It's really to ask Stephen, since we've been on about potholes, I understand we have 9 monitoring vans that go out on a daily basis, clearly monitoring the roads. Now, when they return back into depot and tell their managers what the state is, nothing seems to have happened when they go round the same roads in 6 months' time. Why is this? And is it really value for money sending 9 vans out on a daily basis to report back and nothing happens? What are we going to be doing about that? I further understand that from 9, you are reducing them down to 7. If it takes them 6 months to get round with 9 vans, I would imagine it's going to take them an awful lot longer with the reducing it to 7 vans. Do we actually have a sort of plan or policy within the roads department for identifying and making sure that works do get carried out when it is reported back?
Thank you, Councillor Wood. Stephen?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Wood. So the vans you're referring to, quite correct. At the moment, we have 9 dedicated road condition inspectors who go out on a regular basis to inspect the carriageway surface specifically. So that's for safety-related defects, potholes, drain covers, curbs that might be missing, etc., and cause a danger to the public. We do that under the current inspection procedure that has been approved and is in place. We are reducing that down to 7 in the new financial year, and that is in line with implementing a new carriageway safety inspection procedure that was approved by the relevant committee, I think Communities Committee, but it may have predated it. I will check this a number of years ago, and that's going to be implemented in the new financial year, and that will reduce the volume down to 7. That new procedure that has been approved by the appropriate committee is in line with the Scotland-wide procedure that has been developed by an organisation called SCOTS, the Society of Chief Officers of Transport in Scotland. Just as background, all local road authorities in Scotland in effect utilise the same inspection policy, which is very beneficial on a national basis. So to give assurance, the work that our inspectors do is in line with national codes of practice, it's in line with peer authorities, and it is being implemented as of the start of the new financial year. Within that policy, there is, of course, a methodology for risk rating of defects, so they come in as high priority emergency defects to be responded to within 24, 48 hours, medium priority, lower priority, etc. And there are methodologies in place to ensure that those high priority defects are dealt with within the timescales allowed under the policy. So that happens, but as given the condition of the road network at present, we are having to prioritise the repairs that are done. So our teams are out there responding to the highest priority safety-based defects. That does mean that there are other defects that we have to maintain a monitoring regime over because we haven't yet been able to go out and actually fix them. So they continue to be monitored to ensure they haven't escalated to be a greater risk to the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Councillor Wood, does that answer your questions?
Chair, partly, but as a following question I would like to ask with regards to the staff that do this monitoring, and that is, what is the council, and in particular the roads department, going to do to protect those members of staff that go out in the monitoring cars? Because I understand that they get abuse from the public, and that in actual fact, in some instances, some have been attacked. Are we going to make sure we have a policy in place that safeguards and protects our staff?
Thank you, Councillor Wood. Stephen?
Thank you for the question. The safety and protection of our staff right across the council has got to be one of our highest priorities, and I know it is both for officers, senior officers, all officers, and I know it is from members as well. So yes, we do have procedures and policies in place to protect our staff. We of course absolutely, on a personal level, I absolutely want them to report any incidents where they are either verbally or physically abused by the public, so that we can address that, and so that we can address it in terms of both directly in relation to the specific incident, but also to learn from that if there are changes we need in terms of the policies, procedures and mechanisms we have to support our staff to keep them safe, then absolutely we need to know that, we want to know that, and then we will deal with things as they arise. As members will be aware, council staff across a broad range of services interact with the public in many different areas. Some staff in regulatory functions, in care settings. Our staff on the road network are no different. We need to give them the skills, equipment and procedures to do that safely, and we need to respond where public behaviour doesn't meet with what we would in the way we would expect the public to behave towards staff who are doing a valuable public service. So thank you for the question.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Councillor Wood. Councillor Dempster.
Thanks, Provost. Just a couple of questions. And again, first one's about potholes, Stephen. Many years ago, this council purchased a couple of machines, I think, from New Zealand that were supposed to be the be-all and end-all in terms of fixing potholes, needed less staff to maintain them or work them, operate them. And we finished up with, or what happened was when the machine left, it was a finished product. And nowadays, the pothole repairs seem more like they have a temporary appearance because they're no cut out in squares and set in, they're just simply filled. And I wonder if there's only intention to maybe not revert back to these machines if they're no longer suitable for our climate or our road network demands, but more permanent fixes rather than have to go back twice to the same pothole. That's the first question. And the other thing is, again, a number of years ago, this council adopted a national policy for roads maintenance. But what it has done a disservice to the more small rural communities, because they either have unclassified roads or in some cases housing estates where the level, the score is so far down the criteria that they're just never done, because we've got a cycle of maintaining A and B class roads. So we're maybe needing to, as a council, no you Stephen, but as a council, look again at a policy, because we can't be adopting a council policy if we then find that it doesn't serve the wider community that we represent. And currently, I think part of the problem is the policy is not serving the more small, rural, remote communities.
Thank you for the question and point. So in relation to, I guess, the first point, which was really the balance between permanent repairs to potholes versus temporary repairs. So we do, and all road authorities do undertake a certain proportion of temporary road repairs, where in effect the urgency, the level of risk to the public means we just need to make it safe as quickly as possible. And those kind of scenarios will be where an inspector goes out either on one of the routine inspections referred to before, or where we have something reported to us either by a member of the public or by an elected member. And if what they find on site means it needs to be made safe, they will do a temporary repair. And yes, the clues in the title, they're not permanent. They don't always last as long as they should. That can be anything from a repair that might stay in situ for a few weeks through to sometimes a repair that, although temporary, may last a year or two depending on the road. But that would never be our finishing point for that repair. We would then want to follow that up and do a permanent repair to it. What we aim to do is to ideally do the minimum number of temporary repairs and the maximum number of permanent repairs. Permanent repairs where we would use a variety of methods, from cutting out that area of road and applying new hot material into it, fully compacting it. That would be a permanent repair. Permanent repairs where we would bring in heavier plant and machinery to plane off whole sections of road and resurface them. And also, I think the machines you're referring to, if my history is right, will be a machine called a jet patcher, which Dumfries and Galloway did own and utilise for a number of years. We no longer own those machines, but we do still use that methodology. And we plan in the next year and then into future years to have really quite large programmes of maintenance using that methodology. It is a very high productivity way of fixing potholes. You can get around an awful lot of the network very quickly and undertake permanent repairs. So in a sense, almost going back to using that method more is absolutely something that we're doing, and we will shortly be starting this year's programme of spray injection patching in the next month to 6 weeks. So I think that's in terms of the repair methodology. In terms of the prioritisation, it is a very difficult balance in terms of investment on the network. For any member of the public, the part of the road that they care about is the one they travel every day. The judgments we have to make are around the volume of traffic moving across them, the severity of the defects, and the cost effectiveness of making the repairs to it. In terms of making things safe, though, if something needs to be made safe, then we need to do that wherever it is on the network. But currently, our procedures do place a higher priority on the A and B class roads. Yes, but I've taken your point. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
Promise. No, I've just got to say it's the C and unclassified roads that are the problem, no the A and B ones. That's the point I'm making. We keep going back to the A and B ones, but the remainder degrade further because we don't have the policy in place that sends our staff to deal with these roads until they become unusable or your language dangerous, and then we go and do something with them. So, no, thanks for your response, Stephen. Thanks, Provost.
Thank you, Stephen. Councillor Slater, did you want to come back in? You've got your hand up.
Yes, Chair. Thank you very much. Just to ask Stephen, jet patching, I must admit, seems to work very well. But what tends to happen is it's jet patched, but it's not brushed afterwards. So 2 or 3 weeks later, there's a lot of gravel lying around. People say that the gravel's spraying up, so that's something maybe that should be followed up. But as regards jet patching, yes, it seems to be the best quick fix remedy at this stage. I've watched it work and it does a very good job. The other thing is Craig's Road is in terrible poor condition and it's used by thousands of people every day. I must admit that, and I just wonder when Craig's Road and up past the school could be actually relayed, because it's as you go past the church, that part was renewed to the top of the hill, but down from there, and I believe that's been caused by a lot of working vehicles when they're building new properties. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Slater. As this is a specific issue, roads, are you able to answer on that, Stephen?
I can answer in saying that unfortunately I can't recall every single scheme we have on the capital maintenance schedule, but I certainly can arrange for officers to come back to you, Councillor Slater.
Thank you, Councillors. Councillor Ferguson.
Thanks very much, Chair. Much as though I commend the opportunism of certain members here, item 9 is actually about 2 specific projects. That's what we're discussing here today. All this about potholes. Yes, I totally agree with them, everything they're saying about them, but this is not the forum, and it really shouldn't have been allowed to develop to this stage, because we've been talking now about potholes for about 15 minutes. Where in actual fact, the two things in item 9 are there. So can we move on, please, and just actually ask questions on the 2 projects that are referred to in the report in item 9?
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. It's also quite good to cover other things at the same time, but I do appreciate your point.
With respect, Chair, it has to be in the agenda first.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Do we have any further? Councillor Campbell, you wanted to come in.
Yeah, based on the same point, I think members are taking an opportunity here. This is a historic report. It takes us up to 30th of September. We've got the 2 items. We did ask questions at the beginning. I would formally move that we go to the recommendations and just get on with it, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. Yes, we have covered a few subjects here this morning. Thank you, Stephen. Are there any further questions relevant to the paper? Otherwise, we'll move to recommendations. Thank you. Members are asked to review the 2023-2024 six-month summary performance for the Nithsdale area for the 1st of April 23 to 30th September 23, as set out in paragraphs 4.3 and 4.4 and appendix. 2. Consider the area-based achievements and developments as detailed in the key achievements section of this report, paragraphs 4.5.1 to 4.5.2.2, and consider any aspects of performance to be referred to the relevant service committee. Thank you. So that's review and consider and consider. Thank you. The next report is the performance monitoring information from projects and initiatives that received support from the Nithsdale Area Committee discretionary budget in 23-24. And it is good to see that the budget continues to provide significant impact to our local communities and members. And members will note the significant impact on their wards and the wider area. The report provides an update on the Christmas Light Bluetooth project, which is unfortunately unable to proceed, and so the funding allocated can be reprioritised by this committee in the new financial year. And it is hoped to still be able to deliver the outcome of that project through future contracts, subject to member decisions at a future committee. Members will also note that we have provided an update on the Heston Rovers Football Club project, which sadly was unsuccessful in securing their match funding, and so members are being asked to consider a change to allow the project to proceed. Derek Hextall is available on Teams to support our discussion, and I will open up for member discussion. Members? Councillor Campbell.
Yep, thank you, Chair. I'm looking for a wee bit of clarity, if I may. Page 101 for the Nithsdale sports grants. Now, at the top, it says that small grants of up to £200 for individuals and £400 for clubs. However, there's a number of awards that have actually been made of 500. There's 6 in total in the list below. And there's also the button twirlers. I've got there on the list twice. I don't know if that's a mistake, or is the limit 500, not 400? Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. Derek, do you have an answer for this? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Morning, members. Apologies, members, that is an error. Grants for community groups are up to £500, so apologies for that error. Well spotted, Councillor Campbell. In terms of the baton twirling, you'll notice column 1 is the sport or the organisation, and column 2 is the club or the individual. So baton twirling, I think, from what I can see, appears twice in terms of it's also supporting 2 individuals, but it's also supporting the baton twirling club for a different project. Hopefully that provides the clarity for members.
Thank you, Derek. Yes, Councillor Campbell.
Yeah, just to come back in. No, thanks very much for that, Derek. It's just that, you know, some of the individuals in other sports have actually been named. So I'm just wondering why the 2 individuals from the baton twirlers, you know, weren't named as a, because it is a wee bit confusing when you look at that. It looks like as if the actual baton twirlers themselves is getting 2 lots of 500. It would have made more sense if the 2 individuals were named, reference the baton twirlers. Thanks.
Thank you. Derek, do you have any further comments on that?
Yeah, happy to take that on board, Chair, and go and have a look and see what's happened there. And I'm happy to recirculate that table because Councillor Campbell's absolutely right. We have identified other individuals, so I'm happy to update that table, Chair, and recirculate it to the members.
Thank you. Councillor Dempster.
Thanks, Provost. I'm delighted to see that we've managed to save £31,000 on the Bluetooth connectivity. hopefully that will be supported by another investment from the grant body to allow us to support again projects this year. The one mention I wanted to make was on Heston Rovers, which is on page 921, and Derek has provided a considerable narrative on this situation and where Heston Rovers find themselves. And we need to get rid of this money, I think, somehow, members, and I would like to see us simply agree to option 1, which would be to provide the 71% investment instead of the proposed 38% initially, given that Sport Scotland didn't find themselves able to support this project, and especially given the number of youngsters that benefit from this. So I would propose that we go with option 1 when we come to a decision making on this, and I would like members to agree maybe an additional recommendation, which is that if there are other minor adjustments to this scheme, we simply delegate that to officers in conjunction with the provost to ensure that we're not sitting here in another 3 months' time looking at a varied scheme again, and this organisation simply not being able to commence any work because of the constraints placed on by the committee. So within reason, I would hope that we would support a delegation to officers in conjunction with the provost if there's any amendment to the scheme as set out before us, but I'd simply say we should agree option 1.
I would second that. Councillor Campbell?
No, you've already seconded that. No, I totally agree with what Councillor Dempster was saying, option 1. It is a great shame that they didn't get the match funding. However, when you look at the other parts of the project that they want to do, you know, like using the PE department, for example, for trusted access, I think that would make a huge difference, because unless they get janitorial access, which I think is quite limited at this moment in time, there's no facilities. I think there's one Portaloo, and that's for both boys and girls at the 3G pitch. So if they can get trusted access, I think that'll be a huge, huge difference. And although the original project was about 101,000, the remaining part of the project is 55,000. And I think, you know, if we give the remaining money, or the money that we already gave before, I think it was £39,448. I think that'll go a long way, even if it does make you know, the difference going from 38% to 71% of funding. But I think Councillor Dempster makes a fair point. I'm happy to support that if you're happy to second. Thanks, Chair.
Yes, I'm happy to second that. Councillor Little.
Just a little bit of clarity. If we do up that funding, do we have a guarantee that that's going to enable that organisation to fulfil that that project, or whether we would up the funding and they still wouldn't because they're still short of money?
Derek, would you be able to answer that?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Thanks, Councillor Little. The request that's come before us today is not to up any financial contribution. It's simply asking members to up the percentage of our contribution would be to the total project. So they are still looking for the 39,448, which would now mean, because they have reduced, they've taken an element of the project out, it would mean we are now contributing 71% to the project. The organisation have confirmed that they have also increased their contribution significantly to the project, and that would then allow the project to proceed as otherwise outlined within their proposal to committee.
Thank you, Derek. Thank you, Councillor Little. Do we have any further? Yes, Councillor Campbell.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, just a quick point, because on page 109, when you look at Appendix 2, it says that the school confirmed no VAT if a council managed the projects for 2, 3 and 4, which is listed. There's 1, 2, 3 and 4 listed at the bottom of the page. So I think that's a benefit as well, that they won't be paying any VAT. So for that size of project, I think that's quite a good deal in my view. Thanks.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Campbell. Sorry. Oh, Councillor Ferguson.
Oh, okay, thanks. I'm away on something totally different. I'm looking at the report here on Kirkconnell and Kellerholm Community Council Remembrance Hospitality. £4,446 for 150 people. And then it says this money contributed to the provision of a light lunch. Now, I'm totally supportive of Remembrance Hospitality, but a light lunch for 150 people at £4,446 is £29.64. And if that's only a contribution, what kind of light lunch did they get in Kirkconnell? That is my question here. I'm hoping it's a misprint, Derek.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Is it a misprint, Derek?
It certainly is, Chair. The award that we gave was £300.
Thank you for that clarification.
Just show they read the papers, Provost.
Well done, Councillor Ferguson. Do we have any further questions or comments? In that case, we'll move to recommendations. Members are asked to note the performance monitoring information from projects, initiatives that received support from the Nithsdale Area Committee discretionary budget in 23-24, as referenced in paragraphs 4.10 to 4.12 and detailed in Appendix 1. 2. Note that over 22,000 citizens have directly benefited from the delivery of the key local projects and initiatives in the local Nithsdale area. And 3. Note that the Christmas Lights Bluetooth project will be included as part of future tendering as set out in paragraphs 4.13, and that the budget of £31,928 will be carried forward to the discretionary budget 2024 to 25. And note that Heston Rovers Football Club were unsuccessful in securing match funding for the project as set out in paragraph 3.6 and Appendix 2, and agree from the options as outlined in paragraph 4.16, and, subject to the decision at 2.4, agree to carry forward any underspend to the discretionary budget 24-25 as detailed in paragraphs 4.17. Have we noted? Yes.
Sorry, Chair. I'll just come in there. I was taking on board members' comments 2.4. What I've noted here is that you would note the first part of the recommendation, and then you'd agree on option 1 as outlined in paragraph 4.16, and further agreed that should there be any minor adjustments to the proposal, that this be delegated to officers in conjunction with the chair of this committee to avoid any further delays.
Thanks for that, Provost. Thanks, Tracy. And make sure the financial thing for Connell Memorial is amended to 400 and no 4,000.
We'll note that in the minute, and the table as well that Councillor Campbell asked for, will can append that to the minute.
Unless you want to give them 4,000 every year.
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Councillor Dempster. Thank you, Derek, for your help today. Thank you so much. Our next report is a review of outside bodies, and members are asked to consider whether any current organisations and appointments should be removed from the scheme of outside bodies as a result of the information contained within the appendix. Those members with direct involvement in the outside bodies will possibly have the most relevant comments and observations. I'll take any members' comments on each of the organisations listed. Moorheads Hospital Trust, the Nith District Salmon Fishery Board, the George D. Grant Memorial Fund, and Tracy will answer any member questions or address any member comments. We are now open for any comments or questions. Councillor Hislop.
Chair, as the representative recently appointed onto the Nith District Salmon and Fishery Board, I think it is important that we are represented there. We have significant fishings within the Common Good sub, and decisions taken at that board could significantly affect the fishings and the cost to the common good fund of the rates, etc. So I think it's good to be there.
Thank you, Councillor. Tracy, do you have any comment for that?
No, that's just noted. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Now, the Moorheads Hospital, Councillor Campbell, sorry.
Well, I was going to touch on the Moorheads unless you want to say
No,
your
you
piece
can.
first, but you want me? Okay. Yeah, it's just for a wee bit of clarity on the report on page 115. It says, what are the benefits achieved from both the council and your organisation? Now, it says the council members can make decisions on grants, donations, loans, gifts and pensions to individuals. However, that's not strictly factually true, because although I think there's 15 directors, trustees made up of, I think it's 7 councillors. There's the Kirk Session from St Mary's Grey Friars. There's 3 from there. The Kirk Session. There's 5 from St Michael's Kirk Session, and there's also 4 from the local community. However, it's the management part of it. It's like a subcommittee. They are the only ones that can actually make that decision. Now, on that management subcommittee, there's only 6, and I think they do a term of 3 years. And then they have to step down and let others come in. Now, unless councillors are actually involved in the management side of it, we won't be able to, make decisions on any of these proposals. I've got a wee concern because I've been looking back at some of the previous minutes, and the management committee, as far as I'm aware, they hold, I think, 2 yearly meetings to make those decisions. However, there's been substantial financial decisions being made by the subcommittee of 6 without any involvement from the remaining trustees, which is quite worrying. Because there's been huge sums either been moved from one trust, these are the investment trusts, to another, or they've been cashed in, and it's only these 6 people have been making those decisions on the advice of the factor. So I've got a wee concern about that. However, if people want to continue sitting on that, I've no complaints about that whatsoever, but I certainly won't be putting my name forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. Yes, it's a bit concerning about the subcommittee. Tracy, do you have any comments on that?
I haven't got any comments, Chair. Your ward officer, Fiona, is sitting along from me. She's actually the link officer, so I'm sure those comments will be picked up.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Campbell. And we now have the George D. Grant Memorial Fund. I've actually had one meeting with them, and I think that there was nothing last year. I think it was the year before. I think it was 22. And that was just to consider the fund. So I've heard nothing since then. Has anyone else who's on that fund? Councillor Ferguson.
Thanks. The last box is interesting, isn't it? Where it looks as though there's been a move to put this work into the common good. And it's the last sentence, it kind of flummoxed me. However, if legal agree, we will merge this with the Priest Common Good. I think that the wording there should be the members will merge it with the common good, as long as if that's legally practicable or doable or something like that. Because legal don't tell us as councillors what decisions to make. They guide us and advise us and tell us if it's illegal. And we can't go there, but it's still, at the end of the day, it still is a member decision. So I would be for actually moving that to the Common Good Fund, because the widow of Mr. Grant is pretty old. I don't even know if she's still alive, to be honest. I think she must be in her 90s by now. And the daughter, I think, is probably my age, right? And lives miles away, and quite frankly is no interested. That was the information we got the last time. I'm kind of looking at the ward officer here. So if what we're suggesting here in this review outside body is that we should be moving that to the Common Good Fund, I'd be one wouldn't be up for just doing that, because it's only borough councillors that are involved in it anyway.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Tracy, do you have how we could do that?
Thanks, Chair. We're not actually being asked to consider changing that or merging it in this meeting today. It's just whether we continue representation on that outside body. But I know Jackie Holland is listening in. There is actually a review going on of common goods at the moment, and there's a common good working group, so I'll take it up with Jackie offline.
Thanks, Provost. I mean, thanks, Tracy. If we can actually move it to there and actually get some movement on it rather than come back in a year's time and have a look at it again, I think that's a really good suggestion for the clerk.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Ferguson. That will be an action taken forward. Thank you. Any further comments or questions? In that case, we will now move to the recommendations. Members are asked to note the activities undertaken by each outside body since appointments were made in 2022, where representation has remained stable for 12 months. Appendix and agree whether any of the current active appointments should continue following review or whether any outside bodies should be removed from the scheme of outside bodies. Do we note and agree? Thank you. We'll move on now to item 12. The next report asks that we consider the asset transfer request from Sanker Enterprise Company. Now, you will see from the report that Sanker Enterprise Company would like to bring these garages back to life to be an asset for the community that the community can use. Fiona Dobney will answer any member questions or address any member comments. I'll now open it up for comments and debates. Thank you. Do we have any questions? Councillor Campbell.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, my usual question, has this been checked to make sure it's not common good? It has. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Hislop.
Chair, will this be affected anything by the new NDR rules coming in, that if the building's sitting empty, they'll have to pay rates in it? And does that affect the business plan?
I have absolutely no idea on that. I would need to check that out with colleagues.
Thank you. Any comments, questions? I don't seem to have any. Oh, Councillor Beretti.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Having seen the buildings in question frequently, as that's obviously in my ward, I would welcome that this is in fact accepted, because it will bring in two buildings back into the community, and ultimately they will be a useful asset to the company from a number of different aspects, and just accept the report.
Thank you. Councillor Campbell.
Yeah, thanks for letting me back in, Chair. Yeah, the recommendations is saying agree the options from paragraph 3.8, but there's no 3.8. Obviously a typo, so it's 4.8 where the options are sitting on page 125. Just thought I'd point that out, Chair. Thank you.
4.8, you're correct. Has everyone had time to look through the options put forward? Thank you. Did you want to speak again, Councillor Campbell?
Yeah, thanks for letting me back in again. Yeah, just looking at the options, I think option one would be my preferred option, but I'm open to hear discussions from other members. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson, seconding that. Do we have any other comments?
Thanks, Chair. I see the options are to agree to recommend to the Finance, Procurement and Transformation or not recommend. I know in the past members have either agreed to attach conditions or not, and I just wanted to clarify with members if they wanted to attach any or recommend to attach a commission to FPT or not. Or Fiona might want to come in on that.
Yep, I took this up with Jamie Ferguson, who's lead for asset transfer, and normally we only put like a third condition on if it's seen as an expensive or larger asset. I think you'll see from this asset it's needing a considerable amount of work, and that's why there's only the two options. But if you want to put conditions, you're more than welcome to do so.
Councillor Campbell?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. No, thanks for that, Fiona. I mean, looking at the relatively small value of this piece of property, I don't think it would be reasonable to put any sort of conditions on that, but still happy to go with option one. Thank you.
Thank you. We have no further comments or questions. I'll now move to recommendations. Members are asked to consider the asset transfer request from Sanker Enterprise Company as laid out in Stage 2 application Appendix 1 and Business Plan in Appendix 2. 2. Consider the outcome of officer assessment of the request in relation to the Council's requirements to meet best value as detailed at paragraphs 3.4 and the officer recommendation at paragraph 3.7. Note the outcome of the social value assessment of the proposal transfer as detailed at paragraph 3.4.2 and agree an option from those detailed at paragraph 4.8 to be recommended to the Finance, Procurement and Transformation Committee. Do we consider 1 and 2, note 3 and agree 4? Councillor Campbell.
Yeah, totally agree with that. However, all the references, 3.4, 3.7, etc., they're actually 4.4, 4.7. So if we could just note that for the record, please.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. We'll note. Thank you.
Yeah, and just to clarify, 2.4, I'll read that you've agreed option 1.
We'll now move to item 13. Now, the next report asks us to identify any groups who may be interested in the former resource base in Kirkconnell. Colin Freeman will answer any member questions or address any member comments. Thank you. Do we have any member questions or comments? Councillor Campbell?
Yeah, usual question, has this been checked against common good?
Colin, has this been checked against common good?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, it has, and it is not in the common good.
Thank you. Do we have any further questions, comments? We don't appear to have any further comments or questions, so I'll now move to recommendations. Councillor Dempster, now you...
No, just to say, Provost, I did make a statement of connection earlier because there was some business interested in purchasing this property. And I'd just like to say that part of the Kirkconnell and Kilholm development plan is to reinvigorate and revitalise Kirkconnell Main Street. And one of the ways to do that is ensure that a business is located there. So I very much support the terms of the report and the recommendation placed before you. Thanks, Provost.
Thank you, Councillor Dempster. We'll now move to the recommendations. Members are asked to note the background of the former resource base, the appendix, as detailed at paragraph 3.1 to 3.3. 2. Note the local community groups consulted with at paragraph 4.4 and the responses provided by each. And identify any groups not already identified and engaged with in regard to the disposal of the former resource base as at paragraph 4.5. Do we note, and identify? Thank you. We'll now move on to item 14. The next report asks us to identify any additional groups who should be consulted with in regard to the disposal of land at St Michael's Street Car Park, Dumfries. Colin Freeman will answer any member questions or address any member comments. I have received a written thing from Lower Burn Community Council regarding this piece of land, and this is from Simon Jones, Secretary of Lower Burn Community Council. He is writing on behalf of Lower Burn Community Council, the statutory consultee in the matter of the disposal of land at St Michael's Street, item 14 on the agenda. At our meeting on Tuesday, the 5th of March, we were unable to form a conclusion on this matter as we had no information about what this sale was for. On Sunday, I spotted that the sale is to allow Scottish Power Energy Renewables to build an electricity substation. As a statutory consultee, Lower Burn Community Council has no position agreed and minuted. We do, however, have views collected informally in the last few days. 4 community councillors support the sale, 1 on the condition that the land only be used for electricity substation, 3 unconditionally, so no community councillors have indicated that they oppose the sale. Thank you. Do we have any comments or questions from anyone? Councillor Dempster.
Provost, we're always advised not to place a condition that we can't manage or control, and it would be difficult for us to place a condition that could only be used for electricity generation purposes because we don't know how long it will last or when the substation may move somewhere else. So I would advise maybe against that, although obviously Colin's there and other experts are there more readily available to inform you than I am.
Colin, do you have anything to comment?
Thank you, Chair. Take on board Councillor Dempster's comments. When we progress the sale, we'll put into the burdens that it will be used for the substation for as long as the Scottish Power Energy Networks or their successors need it. And at the expiry of that, then that burden will be removed.
Thank you. Thank you, Colin. Do we have any further comments or questions? Councillor Campbell.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just a quick one for if Colin can answer it. On that particular car park, will there be any loss of car parking spaces if the substation was implemented where it's located?
Thank you, Councillor. Colin, do you have any answers?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Campbell. As I understand it, the planning permission hasn't yet been submitted, so we don't know what the final plan will look like. However, we will continue to engage with Scottish Power Energy Networks with a view to minimising any disruption to the parking that already exists there.
Thank you. Councillor Campbell, did you want to come back in?
Yeah, if I may, Chair. It was the car park, my understanding is for residents opposite the street, because maybe I should have declared an interest. My brother used to have a flat there, and he did have a car parking space in that particular car park. So I'm just wondering, would that affect the residents in any way? Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Colin, do you have an answer?
As said, Chair, the planning permission hasn't been submitted for this proposal yet, and anybody in the vicinity will have an opportunity to comment on any future planning proposal. And as I said, we'll continue to work with the Scottish Power Energy Networks to ensure that any concern raised over future parking is communicated to them.
Thank you, Colin. Thank you, Councillor Campbell. Any further comments or questions on this item? Councillor Ferguson.
It's actually a comment about the last couple of things on the agenda here, and before we get to the town board, but all the maps are different. Can we not get a standardised approach to what kind of maps we're using? Because I was looking at the one for Kirkconnell, for example. If I hadn't known the building it was concerned, I wouldn't have known where about in Kirkconnell that was, because there's no street name. Right? It's the same. Yes, to tell you the name of the street, but to give you an idea where it is in the village or town, it would be helpful. And I know the St Michael's one, again, most people think St Michael's starts at the traffic lights at the top. right? But in actual fact, it starts away down at the bottom of the hill. And this is next door to the Indian restaurant. I think I'm right, Johnny? Yeah.
It's just down the
So
bottom.
it would be more helpful if we could actually get a standardised approach to what kind of maps we're getting, especially ones that would tie in with what we used in planning, for example. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Colin?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Your comments actually mirror a conversation we're having internally about the standardisation of our maps and the information that we present to members. We've also just started using the Council's new mapping system, which allows us the opportunity to produce those standardised maps. So moving forward, I can assure members that the information that contained within these plans and maps will be more informative for members.
Thank you. Does that help, Councillor Ferguson? Thank you. Do we have any further questions or comments? We'll now move to recommendations. Members are asked to note that 25 square metres of land at St Michael's Street Car Park, Dumfries, is surplus to council requirements, as shown in the appendix. 2. Note that the Community Council and groups listed in paragraphs 4.2 in the report have been consulted regarding potential community interest. And 3. Advise if there are any other community groups that members wish officers to consult with regarding potential community interest. Do we note, and advise? Thank you. We will now continue to item 15. The next report asks us to identify any additional groups who should be consulted with in regard to the disposal of the former Hare's House in Kirkton. Colin Freeman will answer any member questions or address any member comments. Do members have any comments? Councillor Little.
Thank you, Chair. I was just wondering, in 3.2, it says in October 2023, the Council was approached by Kirkmahole Village Hall Management Committee requesting to purchase the former Hare's House. Has this progressed? Do we have an actual cash offer, or has a CAT intention been indicated?
Thank you, Councillor Little. Colin, do we have any further information on that?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Little. The conversation with the community has been ongoing for some time. We have explored whether community asset transfer would be an option for them. The community themselves determined that that wasn't. Therefore, we had to enter into the sales process, which instigated the disposal and acquisition process, of which this committee and this report is the final part. Should members be in agreement today, we can then enter into a negotiated off-market sale with the group, which terms have already been agreed with them, and we can progress the sale with them as timely as possible.
Thank you.
That's great, thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Little. Thank you, Colin. Do we have any further comments, questions? I don't seem to have anything. We will just move to recommendations. Members are asked to note the background of the surplus former Hare's House, Kirkton, as detailed in paragraphs 3.1 and 3.2. Note the local community groups consulted with at paragraph 4.4 and identify any groups not already identified and engaged with in regard to the disposal of the former Hare's House, Kirkton, as at paragraph 4.5. Do we note, and identify? Thank you. We will now break for lunch and return at 12:45. Good afternoon, members. We're going to item 16. Our final report today has been delegated to this committee by the full council for this committee to assess nominees and invite a person to chair the Dumfries Town Board. And you will see from the appendix we now have more information on those wishing to be chair. And Stuart McMillan is in the hall to answer any member questions or address any member comments. The nominees for the chair are Richard Nicholl, Alexander Charles Campbell, Eric Craig, and Meshmet Sitki. Thank you. I will now open for any comments or members' questions. Thank you. Councillor Bell.
Thanks, Provost. I'm actually delighted to see it's come to Nithsdale Area Committee for local members to make a decision here today, a swift decision to here today, because of the area committees and over the past number of years I sat in the Nithsdale Area Committee, there's not been any hard decisions really taking place, but I think this is a very important decision for us to make here today, and that's all I can say.
Thank you, Councillor Bell. Councillor Campbell, did you want to speak? No. Do we have any comments, questions anyone would like to bring? Councillor Dorward.
Thank you, Chair. I welcome this paper coming to this committee for a decision. I'm just extremely disappointed, and speaking on behalf of the group, the Labour group, that's taken this long because of the, I can say, bourrach of a paper that came to full council. And can I just ask that that doesn't happen again in terms of something as important to Dumfries Town? Having a list of names will never ever enable any decision to be made on the validity of somebody for the chair of such an important project. And it's really unfortunate that that happened. And I think it needs to be noted that, you know, as elected members, we shouldn't have to scrutinise papers that are not actually properly presented. So can I just ask that that's noted, Chair? I welcome this, but I think it's interesting that even this process didn't go as smoothly as it could, because the last person on the list wasn't contacted properly, so might have been left out. And we've gone from 9 people to 3 or 4, with somebody who tried to come back in and put an application in, as I've been informed, Chair, that you spoke about, and then rescinded it, which is fine, but that was after the closing date. So I think in terms of due process, we've got challenges here in terms of what we've done. And I think we need to have a lessons learned process after this, 1 for the full council paper and 2 for this paper, to ensure that this doesn't happen again in terms of anything as important as this coming back. We're almost at the end, well, in the middle of March, and the decision's got to be made by is it the 1st of April, is that correct?
Correct.
Which is a really interesting date for a decision to be made, given where we are with this. And as has been said by the Vice Chair of this committee, if we don't get to a decision, what do we do then? So perhaps I absolutely understand that from council officers, they didn't get the process until December, and the paper came to E and R in January. But thereafter, the process has not been followed properly. And we're in a position now where we have to make a decision, pleased to make a decision, but we can please have a lessons learned log as an aftermath to this, please, because it would actually help to ensure that these mistakes that have happened in terms of due diligence, in terms of papers, don't happen again. Also, in terms of the application process, this hasn't been done correctly either. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dorward. I'm sure that officers will have noted your comments and will take them forward. Councillor Slater.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I must admit, yes, the process has been very poor. Usually if you interview people, you expect CVs in front of you, you go through what they would like to do, what they bring to the table to do that job of work. But we haven't had that. It was like putting a group of people in the room, turn the lights off and pick one. You know, it's quite poorly done. That's what I would say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Slater. I think lessons will have been learned. Councillor Ferguson.
Thanks very much. I think we have to be fair to the officers here. The timescales which came from Westminster were actually unrealistic. The criteria was not clear. We had to go back on several occasions, and officers had to go back and ask questions that we thought should have been quite straightforward. So to be fair to the officers, yeah. However, there is one bit of the whole process that really worried me here was that one of the original band of 8, if we call them that, was taken out of the process and then came back in because we found out there was a problem contacting him. So in the absence of that candidate withdrawing, it should never have been taken out.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson.
No, I'm not finished.
Oh, sorry.
Right, okay. It should never have been taken out and should have been in there to stand. It was his prerogative to actually put in a CV or something or not, right? Not ours. Right? We asked for the CVs to make it easier for us or better for us to come to a conclusion about who we thought would be the best person for the job. Right? That's fair enough. Yeah. But the point I'm making here is that the applicant, which is now at the bottom, number 4, Mr. Nalke, right, should never have been taken off the list in the first place. So the original papers that were produced, he wasn't on them. So I think that's right. You're right. There are lessons learned here. At least I hope they're learned. And again, I just want to stress again, just to be fair to the officers, the timescales and the criteria, etc., were not clear from the outset. They were very, very tight, you know, and actually, quite frankly, paid no hint to our internal processes. We were just expected to dance to the tune of Westminster. It's as simple as that. And I do that, and not in a political vein, in a vein that the aloofness of the way this has been brought forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. I think perhaps Stuart could clear up on why that candidate was left off at a later point. It was to do with an email or contact details, was it?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for your comments, your considered comments, Councillor Ferguson, and I think you've got a good point about that point of process, that that fourth candidate hadn't actually formally said one way or the other to us as to whether they should be included or excluded. So I think that's a good point that we can reflect on, as you say, in some of the lessons learned that we will take from all of this. All I can say about that was that we tried to contact that candidate by both email, and that was the problem. The email address was wrong, but also by telephone, and were unable to reach that person by telephone. So it was, we have in the fortunate position of when the papers were published, that was picked up. And I spoke to Mr. Nauchi very early on Monday, and I've had a couple of other conversations with him over that period of time to apologise for that and to work out what had happened. And he's been able to submit the paper so that he can be considered by members on the same basis as the other 3 that are in front of you this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart. Do we have any further comments or questions on the process? Councillor Dempster.
Just one, and it's for every member, Provost. Can we satisfy ourselves that we've had the opportunity to read the fourth candidate's representation, and we're comfortable that we had time to reflect on that, the same as the rest, so that there's no suggestion that this candidate, the fourth individual, has been disadvantaged because we've had the papers for a considerable length of time now. And if we can do that, I think probably we should just move forward with the confidence that we've read all of the 4 submissions and they'll all have the same standing when we make a decision.
Thank you, Councillor Dempster. I would first like to thank all the people who've come forward as nominees from the beginning of this process. Even if they haven't come forward to the end, we would like to thank them. And we also thank the 4 final candidates in this process who are going to take on this task of being chair on the Dumfries Town Board. But I would like to propose that I would like to put forward for the chair of the Dumfries Town Board, Richard Nicholl. Do I have a seconder? Or?
Provost, I will second that nomination, Provost.
Thank you. Do we have any further? Thank you, Vice Chair. It would appear from the silence in the room that Richard...
Hello, sorry, Chair, I've got my hand up.
Thank you, Emma. Councillor Jordan, please go ahead.
Thank you. I would like to, I'm not sure of the language, but I would like to nominate Mehmet Sikki Naushi, please. If I can find a seconder. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jordan. Do we have a seconder for Councillor Jordan? There doesn't appear to be a seconder, Councillor Jordan. So we will.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we will now carry forward, and I will appoint Richard Nicholl as the. Sorry.
Well, just before you do, Councillor
Yes.
Jordan does have the right to have her dissent recorded because she has not had a seconder and she did nominate one of the candidates. So if she wishes to do that, I think we should offer her that opportunity.
Yes, Councillor Stitt.
I think it's unanimous at Richard Nicholl, but I don't know what the system is now. It'd be nice to think if the new chair has got to approach other three candidates to see if they'd be quite interested in joining them on board, seeing they'd interest to put their names for it. That's just my own personal points of view.
Thank you, Councillor Stitt. Stuart, can you answer that one? Thank you.
We've been asked this in public sessions during the consultation process, and all of the names are actually in the public domain in some shape or form in terms of who the nominations were, particularly those that have considered a full council and today, etc. So those names are known, and we'll have a conversation with the chair when we get to that point of agreeing that they're taking that up to say, look, these are the people that were really interested in making a contribution to the town. And I think that's the important part of why anybody who's engaged in the process has wanted to do something for the town. And we'll have a conversation with the new chair as to what shape or form they want to involve them in the board. So.
Councillor Campbell.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, Councillor Dempster made the point about Councillor Jordan, whether she wishes to record a dissent. I didn't quite hear that because you invited Councillor Stitt in the time. So maybe for the record, we can get Councillor Jordan to either say that she wants her dissent recorded or not. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. Councillor Jordan, would you like to record your dissent?
Thank you, Chair. I think it's very difficult picking between his candidates. They're all experienced and have great skills. I'm sure all of them would make very good chairs of the town board. So I'm happy to go along with what the consensus, and I don't need to record my dissent. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jordan. As there are no further comments... I'll move to recommendations. Now I'll move, as there are no further comments, I'm going to move to recommendations. Members are asked to note the decision of Dumfries and Galloway Council at its meeting of 27th of February.
Point of order, Chair.
Sorry.
We haven't nominated the two councillors yet before you move to recommendations.
Well spotted, Councillor Ferguson. We will go... In this process, we have to nominate two councillors to take part on the board. Do we have any nominations for the two councillors? Councillor Dorward.
Thank you, Chair. I nominate Councillor Keith Walters, but can I just say that you've missed out 2.4, which is agreeing that as required by the UK Government Guidance Local MPs are consulted on the decision. So we haven't actually touched on that bit either as recommendations. So you've skipped one, you've gone to the last one. So yeah, I nominate Councillor Keith Walters to be represented on the board, but we need to go back and revisit 2.4 as well, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dorward. Councillor Beretti?
No, I was expecting Councillor Ferguson in first because I was after him.
Councillor Dempster is next.
I would just like to propose the Provost as one of the two members of the board.
I'd like to second that.
Okay, thank you. Right. Councillor Ferguson?
I'd like to nominate Councillor Slater as an independent.
Councillor Stitt?
Yeah, I'm quite happy to second Councillor Dorwood for Councillor Walters.
I'd like to second Councillor Slater. That was a good idea.
So it would appear we have 3 councillors nominated for the 2 positions. Councillor Beretti?
I was going to second Councillor Slater, and because he's also in the climate group, so that for me would be a valid member.
Councillor Malcolm Johnston?
Thank you, Chair. Whilst with the Provost being proposed, I think it might be useful going forward if the Provost was on the board, regardless of who the Provost is. If you understand what I mean, it's actually the position ends up being the person on the board rather than the specific person who's fulfilling the role at the time.
Thank you. Councillor Dempster?
No, often I contradict Malcolm, but we're trying to make it non-political, and if you make the Provost a post irrespective of who he or she is, and you then nominate 2 people, you might finish with one political group in a position of strength in the town board, and therefore the only reason I nominated Maureen Johnson was because she's a Provost now, but she may not be in the future.
Now, we have Councillor Walters and Councillor Slater, both nominated, and myself.
Are those all as nominated as the main members, not substitutes? Because it's 2 members and 2 substitutes.
And 2 substitutes.
It's main members.
Main members. I'd be happy to withdraw.
Sorry, members, can I just clarify, because I've got Councillor Bell seconding the Provost and Councillor Slater.
Councillor Ferguson's hand was up first, mine was up second, and then it got lost. So that was why I brought it in.
Can I put a point of clarification, Chair? How are we going to decide this vote? Is it got to be on transferable votes? Is it the hunt system? What is it? I'm looking at one of I'm looking at the lawyer here to see how we're going to do this.
I'm sure Tracy will work it out.
Thanks, Chair. So I've got the motion recorded proposed by Councillor Dorward, and that's to nominate Councillor Walters, and that was seconded by Councillor Stitt. The amendment was proposed by Councillor Dempster, seconded by Councillor Bell, and that was to nominate the Provost. And the counter amendment was proposed by Councillor Ferguson to nominate Councillor Slater, and that was seconded by Councillor Beretti. So I'll first take the counter amendment versus the amendment.
Before you do, unusually that might cause a problem, because you could have the two highest scoring candidates competing against each other. One will fall, and then the only remaining candidate might have only two people voting for them, and they actually get through. So this process in this case might not work, given I've just been thinking about that. It might have to be a show of hands, and you can't have the same hand up twice, if that makes sense.
Through yourself, Chair. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to go back to standing orders. Standing orders are quite clear in terms of a motion amendment, counter amendment, and therefore that's what we need to apply. I understand absolutely members' reservations around that process, but the standing orders are very clear, and if you're not proceeding on that basis, then in essence we'll be going against standing orders, and only full council can do that, so a suspension of standing orders. So at this point in time, we have to proceed as Trace has laid out in terms of that counter amendment, and then motion.
Okay, my apologies. Apologies, Tracy, away you go, but remind us who we're voting for.
Thanks, Chair. So just a reminder that we'll be taking the counter amendment, which is proposed by Councillor Ferguson, seconded by Councillor Beretti, to nominate Councillor Slater, versus the amendment proposed by the Vice Chair, Councillor Dempster, seconded by Councillor Bell, to nominate the Provost. I'll proceed to the vote, Chair. Chair?
Before you do that, that again means the person that's got the amendment's actually nominated. There is no contest. There can't be a vote then, because you've eliminated one. It leaves only two. So that can't be right.
A point of order, please. Yeah, but does the sensibly. Actually, there are committees in this council actually where you go 1, 2, 3, or whichever one it might be, rather than counter amendment against amendment. We've got 3 nominations here. For example, if appeals committee, for example, or appointments, where we actually go and we put in a little bit of paper and we put our preferred candidate. So there is precedent for it, Vlad.
First and foremost, through you yourself, Chair, I think I take the point from members in terms of the practical element of it, and this is new to us, this whole process, and it's obviously been thrust upon the council to get the outcome. I take the point. I mean, standing orders are quite clear in terms of the process is. I'm trying to think through whether it's a matter of members reconsidering their motions and amendment to include the 2 preferred candidates within that, and that would have a very clear motion and amendment thereafter. Otherwise, I'm accepting of the position that we may have to have some other process, but that process needs to be agreed by all members. And therefore, I've heard 2 or 3 different options, so all members need to be agreed what that process is, bearing in mind that from the practicality point, which is we're only looking for 2 candidates, that would not be practicable based on normal standing orders at this point in time. But this is a difficult position because this is not an easy one for members.
As a point of order, sorry, yeah. This is.
Yes, Councillor Dorward was first. Can
Well, I was still on. I'm still on the point of order, actually.
Councillor Ferguson, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks very much. This is not a council decision. This is an appointment. It's the appointment process you take, and the appointment process we use in this council is if we have three candidates, we rather than 2 for 2 positions, 3 for 2, then we go to a secret ballot, and then it's through the clerk. That's how we normally do it. That's where I would be going with this. And I appreciate what Vlad's saying, right? But this is not a council decision. We're not changing policy. We're not doing any of these things. We're making public appointments. And I think we should follow the precedent that's set in the other committees that I've mentioned earlier.
And to intrude on Councillor Dorward's thought, it's an outside body. That's what it is.
Councillor Dorward.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for intruding on my thoughts, Councillor Dempster. I don't think you have, but never mind. Nice try. This is typical of where we've been with this whole process. It's an absolute bourach again, because we're making up policy on the hoof. We're suggesting different ways of doing things. Vlad, with respect, I've already stated about standing orders. We don't change them. We didn't do that initially. This morning, we stuck to standing orders when I moved that the agenda item 16 went to the top of the agenda, and that wasn't done. So why should we vary that now when we have a process that we agreed? Unless we have a recess and discuss this, I think this is becoming a farce, and I think the people of Dumfries will be looking at us going, what on earth are you doing in there? You don't know what you're doing, you don't know how to do it. It was very clearly set out by the Westminster Government in terms of what we're needing to do. The timescales might have been very short. I take that on board, Councillor Ferguson, but actually we're not getting it right. We didn't get it right in the first place. We're not getting it right now, and we're actually stuck, which is why I asked for it to be moved to the first item on the agenda so we could actually sort this out, Chair. We seem to be in a bit of a bind at the moment, and I think either a recess to review what we're doing, or we go ahead and use standing orders as agreed by Vlad in terms of governance. That's what we're here to do. So, you know, we can't continue to debate this for hours and hours and hours and not get anywhere. It's a really important decision, but we're not actually agreed on how to make a decision, which is evident of the lack of thought that's gone into this process from the outset. Thank you.
Councillor Hislop.
Chair, my understanding under 10.3.4, all candidates go forward on appointment, and if one doesn't reach 50%, the bottom one falls off. But that might be for something different. If 2 or more candidates have received in total less votes cast, so that's for appointments. This is an appointment, so is this not a different kettle of fish to an ordinary vote?
Councillor Dempster.
Thanks, Provost. I was just going to say it's so important to the members that want to serve on it should be given the opportunity to do so. And I think all 3 should go together somehow and be considered collectively, and the 2 that reaches the highest number of votes get the post, and the other might well want to be a reserve, and we still have to find a second reserve, and there might be an opportunity at some later date for these individuals to take the primary positions, because we'll not be here for all that long, some years.
Vlad, would you like to come in?
Yes, please. Thank you. And again, this is not a position that, and it's. I would maybe take the view that we have, as much as possible, tried to do this process as best we can with the best of our abilities, and I think that's really important. That all officers have done what they could within very short timescales, and that's important for members to understand. So we're not trying to make things difficult for members. We're trying to apply standing orders as they currently stand. Taking on board what Councillor Ferguson's saying, that in regards to that appointment, and I think that's been made as well in terms of the appointment. Appointments are only in regards to, if you read further up, that standing order in regards to appointment of officers, and that's very clear within standing orders, and that's the only exception. Otherwise, we are in the voting process, which is laid out by 10.2 of standing orders, which is that motion and amendment element of it. I understand what the practicalities of that are, However, at this point in time, that is the process. There is that option of amendment, as I said, of amending your motions to reflect which two candidates you wish to agree, and that would make it very clear what those two, and ultimately that motion will be approved by this committee. That's the solution I'm proposing, which would stand by standing orders and be very clear in terms of process. The appointment, which have been referred to earlier, were in regards to employment and appeals, and that's very, very clear in terms of that process, or if there's been planning, there's a very specific process for that. So this is in regards to standing orders as it stands. For this appointment, which is not an appointment of an officer, and therefore we're looking at a normal motion and amendment scenario. And this is an appointment to an outside body, and for members might recall, when we've appointed into outside bodies, it has been motions and amendments to that, and we've gone through that process several times.
Thank you, Lad, for that clarification on that. Councillor Dempster?
It's Councillor Slater.
Oh, Councillor Slater.
Yes, thank you, Chair. All I can say, really, I've lived in the Dumfries for a number of years. We've employed a lot of people. We do a lot of good for the community. I have done my very best over the years. I am really committed to trying to make our town better. As you probably write, many, many letters I've written as well to the media and all things like that. So I am totally committed. That's all I really can say. I do my best. And I try to stay out of the political situation as well, and that's why I stand as an independent, and people voted for me as an independent. So that's what I'd like to say. I'll give you my resume away as well. It's quite well written, I must admit. Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Councillor Slater. Councillor Dempster?
Given the debate we've had, Provost, I propose a motion that we select 2 from 3 candidates, the highest number of successful nominations for the 2 places, or the 2 that should be nominated to the post or posts of elected members to the town board. So that's a motion I put forward.
Councillor Dorward?
Chair, we haven't rescinded the previous motion amendment and counter amendment. That was, Vlad has advised us on what we have to do, but you haven't rescinded anything. You haven't made any comment on that, Chair, in terms of chairing this committee, of what your perspective is. So it'd be really useful to hear that before we go on to another motion. And also, can I just say, Councillor Slater, with the greatest respect, nobody else here, or not all candidates, have been able to give their resume verbally, so perhaps that wasn't the best thing to do at that point in time, but thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dorward. Shall we still adjourn for 10? We're going to adjourn for 10 minutes, and we'll come back in 10 minutes. Thank you. Ready to go. Thank you, members. We're about to take the vote. Thank you, Tracy.
Thanks, Chair. So, in order to appoint the two, we're going to take the process of first appointing the first member, which we'll take the counter amendment versus the amendment, and then the amendment versus the winner of that versus the motion, and then we'll go through the same process to appoint the second member. So the counter amendment was proposed by Councillor Ferguson, seconded by Councillor Beretti, to appoint Councillor Slater, and the amendment was proposed by the Vice Chair, Councillor Dempster, seconded by Councillor Bell, to appoint the Provost. So I'll proceed to the vote. Chair?
Counter amendment.
Vice Chair?
You're the amendment.
Sorry?
You're with the amendment.
Have we changed the vote thing?
Sorry, it's been cast. The vote has been cast.
Vice Chair?
Amendment.
Councillor Bell?
Amendment.
Councillor Beretti?
Counter amendment.
Councillor Campbell?
Counter amendment.
Councillor Dorward?
Amendment.
Councillor Ferguson?
Counter amendment.
Councillor Hislop? Amendment. Councillor Malcolm Johnston?
Amendment.
Councillor Jordan?
Amendment, please.
Councillor Little?
Counter.
Councillor Lowe?
Counter amendment.
Councillor Slater?
Sorry, counter amendment.
Councillor Stitt?
That's right, isn't it?
Amendment.
We've got equality of votes for that one, 7 for the counter, 7 for the amendment. Chair, would you like to exercise your right to the casting vote?
Point of order, Chair. Can you actually vote for yourself when you've got a substantive? Because it's a
Counter amendment.
I didn't get an answer to my point of order, please.
So I'll now take the counter amendment versus the motion. So that was David Slater was the counter amendment.
I'm for my point of order. Is the chair allowed to vote for herself? Because it's not a policy decision, this is a personal appointment.
The chair didn't vote for herself, she voted for the counter amendment, which was Councillor Slater.
Sorry, I'm lost here. Yeah, but hang on a minute here, but then she's got to be voting against herself again. Okay, it's a...
Okay, so members, we're now taking the counter amendment against the motion. So counter amendment is for Councillor Slater and the motion is for Councillor Walters. Chair?
Counter amendment.
Vice Chair?
Counter amendment.
Councillor Bell? Counter amendment. Councillor Beretti?
Counter amendment.
Councillor Campbell?
Counter amendment.
Councillor Dorward?
Motion, please.
Councillor Ferguson?
Counter amendment.
Councillor Hislop? Motion. Councillor Malcolm Johnston?
Counter.
Councillor Emma Jordan?
Motion, please.
Councillor Little.
Counter.
Councillor Lowe.
Counter.
Councillor Slater.
Sorry, counter.
Councillor Stitt. So the counter was carried with the David Slater being appointed to the first nomination. And I'll now take the original motion, which was for Councillor Walters, against an amendment which is for the Provost.
Point of order. Sorry to say this, but if Councillor Ferguson's right, the chair can't vote for herself, she should really be abstaining. So, governance advice, can the chair vote for herself in a position of appointment?
Just to clarify, the answer is we're appointing into an outside body. There's been plenty of experience of late into that, and yes, you can vote for yourself in that kind of process. So we've done that for outside bodies. Let's be clear, this is an appointment to an outside body, and in terms of standing orders, just going back to that again, the chair does have that casting vote right. They don't have to exercise it, but they do have the right.
So the motion is for Councillor Walters, the amendment is for the Provost. Chair?
Amendment.
Vice Chair?
Amendment.
Councillor Bell?
Amendment.
Councillor Baretti?
Amendment.
Councillor John Campbell?
Motion.
Councillor Dorward?
Motion, please.
Councillor Ferguson?
Motion.
Councillor Hislop?
Amendment.
Councillor Malcolm Johnson?
Amendment.
Councillor Jordan?
Motion, please.
Councillor Little?
Motion.
Councillor Lowe?
Amendment.
Councillor Slater?
Amendment, sorry.
Councillor Stitt?
Motion.
So the amendment is carried by 8 votes to 6. So the second appointed member is the Provost.
Just a point of clarity, please, Chair. So
We now have to, sorry, Ferguson.
Just a point of clarity. So, congratulations, Maureen. You're appointed as a councillor, not as the Provost.
I nominated Maureen as a person.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
a councillor.
So it's not the Provost, so it's you until you want to change that, basically. So we're absolutely clear.
If Maureen vacates the Provost job tomorrow, she retains that post. Aye, she's not in as Provost. She's got that job as a councillor. So she vacates, she retains that post, whether she vacates the Provost job or not. And we've still got to nominate 2 substitutes. I don't know whether we're going to do that now or no, Provost.
And if we can go forward now and nominate 2 substitutes, please. Do we have any nominations? Councillor Hislop?
I'm maybe speaking out. Would Councillor Walters wish that role because he showed interest in being on the board? I think it's only right that I don't know if he would accept it or not. But
Can I just say, Councillor Walters isn't here today because he's down in London in business. We only nominated Councillor Walters to be chair. I've no idea if he'd be interested sitting as a sub, to sit in the committee. So I've no idea if we want to be a sub or not.
As Councillor Walters isn't here to answer, we can't take that. Yes, Councillor Dempster.
We have a duty to discharge, Provost. We need 2 nominees or 2 individuals today. I would suggest they come from the town. It would be good if members put names forward rather than have us throw names in the hat.
Councillor Hislop.
Could I nominate Councillor Johnston, Malcolm Johnston?
I'll second that, Councillor Hislop.
Thank you, Councillor Hislop. That's Malcolm Johnston. Do we have any other nominations? It would appear not. Councillor Dempster.
In the unfortunate position we're in, no one seems to volunteer, so I would suggest leave the post open and speak to other members that may not be present today that might be willing to take up the post. And it should not interfere with the running of the town board because they're simply substitutes.
Thank you, Councillor Dempster. I think we'll leave as is and go forward with Councillor Hislop. Councillor Malcolm Johnston still wanting to go forward as the substitute. Thank you. Now we'll go to number 4 on the recommendations. Agree that as required by the UK Government guidance, local MPs are consulted on this decision, and in addition to also consult local MSPs as set out in paragraph 4.4.8 as recommended by the Economy and Resources. And 5, agree the nomination of 2 elected members and 2 nominated substitutes to represent Dumfries and Galloway Council on the Town Board as set out in paragraphs 4.4.9. Are we agreed? Councillor Ferguson.
We're in danger right now because my reading of the instructions that came from the UK government, elected people there can be no more than 30%, is it? Yep. So at this moment in time, it was be suggested that we invite the MPs and everything else along once we've got the board in place, so we actually know just how many spaces there are, because there might not be enough space for 2, and then for the MSPs. And are we including all MSPs, including list MSPs, or only the constituency MSPs?
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Stuart, can you have any answer to that one? Thank you.
Well, we're set up to contact the MPs and the MSPs immediately following the meeting to have those discussions to gauge their interest in how actively they want to participate on the board.
Thank you, Stuart. So in the conclusion of our meeting, we have appointed Ronnie Nicholl as the Richard Nicholl as the chair on the new town board, and we'd like to congratulate Richard on his position on the new town board. Thank you all so much for our work here today. Thank you.
Busy day, Provost. Well done.
As I have no urgent business, so that concludes the meeting, and could I thank you all for your contributions. Thank you all so much.